Chapter 44:30. Just as Jiyu Ling and Kai Hao were confronting each other, another expert came from the other side of the Chaos Rift. It was an existence shrouded in chaotic aura. Chaotic lightning flashed in the void around him from time to time, crackling and flashing with electricity. Son of Chaos. When Kai Hao saw that person, he couldn't help but be shocked. Kai Hao, I didn't expect you to be here earlier than us. Another figure walked out from the depths of the Chaos Rift. That person was wearing a fiery red armor and holding a scarlet flame spear. Her long red hair fluttered like divine flames. It was a peerless woman. There was fire flickering in her eyes. Goddess of the Heavenly Phoenix clan? Kai Hao was shocked when he saw this woman. Soon after, several powerful figures walked out from the depths of the Chaos Rift. These people all had great backgrounds. If they weren't the direct descendants of a clan, they were the goddesses, saintesses, or saints of a certain sect or sect. Every figure emitted a peerless and powerful aura. They are all quasi-supremes. Could it be that in their world, quasi-supremes can be found everywhere? Countless Heaven Realm cultivators who saw these grand incipient realm experts through the Tianji live broadcast were all stunned. Boom. At this moment, Jiyu Ling made her move. She had no distractions. There was only one person in her eyes. That person was Kai Hao. She wanted to blast this guy into pieces. As Jiyu Ling punched, the grey fist force seemed to turn into a monstrous storm that swept towards Kai Hao. Sky-flipping hand, sky-flipping hand. Kai Hao immediately used his trump card. With a flip of his right hand, he blocked the mighty wood elemental power. With a shake of his right hand, Jiyu Ling's wood element fist force was directly dispersed. Eat my palm. Kai Hao slapped his palm towards Jiyu Ling. The next moment, the monstrous power of the scarlet sun burst out from his palm, burning the sky and boiling the sea. Water element fist. Jiyu Ling directly used the water element fist of the 5-element fist. Endless power of the water element burst out. In the void, endless water seemed to appear, directly colliding with the mighty power of the scarlet sun water subdued fire. Jiyu Ling's water element fist quickly suppressed Kai Hao's scarlet sun palm force. Kai Hao sneered. His body shook, and endless scarlet sun divine light burst out. It was as if a scarlet sun had appeared between heaven and earth, illuminating the world and dispersing Jiyu Ling's water element fist power. Hihi, Kai Hao, as the godchild of heaven's equal sect, you can't even defeat a native here. You're too useless. An expert from the primordial world mocked. Son of Chaos, are you itching? Are you asking for a beating again? Kai Hao said coldly. You can slowly play with these natives. We're going to go fight for the opportunity. As Chaos Child spoke, he dashed towards the immortal abode and entered the layer of chaos chi outside the immortal abode. In an instant, he passed through the chaos chi and arrived before the immortal abode. The Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden also directly rushed to the front of the immortal residence. And at this time, blood drifted about. The immortal manor was actually bathed in a rain of blood. This scene caused one's hair to stand on end. This immortal manor was extremely terrifying. How could this be? Chaos Child and the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden did not dare to act rashly. This kind of terrifying immortal abode was not so easy to break into. Even if it was them, if they were not careful, they could also die inside. Rumble, at this time, the door of the immortal abode actually slowly opened by itself. Behind the door was pitch black. Even those who had cultivated the heavens, I could not see what was inside. The door of the immortal abode that even a quasi-supreme being could not open just now was actually opening by itself now. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked to the extreme. Even Chaos Child and the other primordial world experts in front of the door of the immortal abode hesitated and did not dare to enter. These guys, seeing this, Kai Hao also could not sit still. He attacked with all his strength, forcing Jiyu Ling to retreat, and then rushed towards the immortal abode. Jiyu Ling did not follow. The immortal abode was extremely terrifying. Although there were great opportunities inside, they still needed to be alive to obtain them. My niece is very smart. Old Tortoise laughed. Hihi, it's dangerous to go in. It's better to stay outside and rob these little bastards from the other world. It's safer. Old Tortoise's uncle also laughed. The black dragon quasi-supreme being, the 9-headed golden lion, and the others who had entered before were like stones sinking into the sea. Perhaps they were already dead. Ha ha, Chaos Child, what's wrong? Are you scared? You don't dare to go in? Kai Hao said with a laugh. He had already arrived at the door of the immortal abode. Hee. Chaos Child did not say anything. He directly patted a leather bag on his waist, and the next moment, dots of chaotic divine light flew out of the leather bag. In each dot of chaotic divine light, there was a strange-looking bug. Chaotic spirit swallowing bugs. Seeing these bugs, the others hurriedly retreated. Even Kai Hao, the divine son of the Heaven Equal sect, stared at the countless bugs that flew out of the leather bag on Chaos Child's waist with a serious expression. The chaotic spirit swallowing bugs were an exotic species of the untainted land. They were born to devour all kinds of spiritual chi, including the chi of death. A large group of chaotic spirit swallowing bugs was enough to destroy a medium-sized sect. No one would have thought that Chaos Child had refined so many chaotic spirit swallowing bugs. The group of chaotic spirit swallowing bugs directly flew into the immortal abode. Soon, Chaos Child's expression changed. Swoosh. He took a step forward and directly walked into the immortal abode. Some divine sons and saintesses of the primordial world hurried to follow him. Kai Hao thought for a moment and also followed. Chaos Child used the chaotic spirit swallowing bugs to explore the way, so they had to go through a lot less danger. These guys are not stupid, Old Turtle said. Old Turtle said. The bloody hand in the immortal abode did not appear, but the immortal abode, which was covered by the chaotic chi, was still dripping with blood. The smell of blood was so thick that it almost could not be dispersed. The immortal abode bathed in the blood rain looked extremely strange and terrifying. Even those who saw this scene through the Tianji live broadcast felt their blood run cold, let alone those who were at the scene. At this time, a dazzling divine light shot up from the ground into the chaos rift. Inside the divine light was a powerful figure. Di Jotian is finally here. Someone said. The little Peng Emperor was also here. Azure Dragon retreated, and even the great dragon halberd was taken away by Kai Hao. He had completely lost this battle. He was going to return to the human realm and go into seclusion. On the other side of the chaos rift, a golden-haired divine ape roared at the sky. On a mountain, a young monk in a white monk robe was holding an alms bowl. He was holding a flower and smiling as he looked toward the immortal abode. The powerful cultivators from the heaven realm and the human realm had finally arrived. Even Yi Beichen from the Yi family of the ancestral realm was here. He had not returned to the ancestral realm yet and was still wandering in the heaven realm. Chapter 44:31. At this time, the heaven realm, the human realm, the ancestral realm, and the primordial realm appeared at the same time in the chaos rift between the heaven realm and the primordial realm. They were all heading for the immortal abode that had just appeared. They wanted to obtain the great opportunity and great fortune in the immortal abode. The immortal abode was too extraordinary. It was surrounded by chaos chi, and even a quasi-supreme would find it difficult to open the door. Some people guessed that it was left behind by an extreme grade supreme. Even a quasi-supreme would go crazy for an extreme grade supreme level immortal abode. At this time, the saints and goddesses from the primordial realm had already entered the immortal abode, but Jiyu Ling and Qin Yao did not enter. It was rare for someone to scout for them. They were not in a hurry and waited for the result. However, not everyone was as calm as them. A ray of golden light rushed over from afar and rushed into the immortal abode. That's an expert of the Golden Spirit Ape clan? Someone saw a golden-haired ape-like figure wrapped in the golden light. Is that Yuan Gang? Old Tortoise's uncle frowned. Why was this guy here? He had some friendship with Yuan Gang's ancestor, but he could not watch the descendant of an old friend die in the immortal abode. Swoosh. The demon clan's patriarch took a step and instantly disappeared into the void. The next moment, he was already standing in front of the immortal abode's door. Uncle. Old Tortoise was shocked. He wanted to stop the demon clan's patriarch, but the demon clan's patriarch had already taken a step and walked directly into the immortal abode. This old tortoise was a little anxious. This immortal abode was definitely dangerous and terrifying. Even an extreme grade supreme would be in danger if he went in. At this time, a sword light rushed from afar and directly broke through the layer of chaos chi outside the immortal abode. It rushed into the immortal abode's door and disappeared inside. The great elder of the Haotian sword sect. Someone recognized the expert of the sword principle. The Haotian sword sect was a sword principle sect in the heaven realm. Its strength was above average among the major forces, but it was a level lower than the demon clan, Buddhist sect, Shentian Holy Ground, and Taiching Holy Land. However, the supreme elder of the Haotian sword faction was an outstanding talent in the sword principle and was only half a step away from becoming an extreme grade supreme venerable. However, it was extremely difficult for the Grand Supreme Elder of the Haotian Sword School to take this half a step. He wanted to fight for the great fortune of the Immortals' abode. He wanted to go one step further and break through to the extreme grade realm in one go. Whether it was Yuan Gang of the Golden Spirit Ape Clan or the Supreme Elder of the Haotian Sword faction, they were all big shots in the heaven realm. Their cultivation was already close to the extreme grade realm. Di Jotian was also here. He was a genuine supremacy. This immortal mansion was not worthy of his attention, unless it was left behind by a supreme existence in the eternal realm. However, was this possible? Junior sister. Di Jotian came to Jiu Ling and Qin Yaro's side. Brother Di, Jiu Ling said. You are Di Jotian? Qin Yaro sized Di Jotian up curiously. The princess of the Qin clan? Di Jotian looked at Qin Yaro indifferently. Although his cultivation was suppressed to the quasi-supremacy realm, the aura that he exuded was still very shocking. An ordinary quasi-supremacy would feel great pressure standing in front of Di Jotian. However, Qin Yaro was still calm and did not show the slightest bit of nervousness. She was the princess of the Qin clan and her father's supreme bloodline flowed in her body. Naturally, she was not afraid of Di Jotian. My master and your master are husband and wife. Doesn't that mean we are also senior brother and junior sister? Senior brother Di, what do you think? Qin Yaro looked at Di Jotian with a smile. Di Jotian was stunned when he heard this. He had never thought about this problem before. It seemed like there was nothing wrong with what Qin Yaro said. While the three of them were talking, many experts from the heaven realm and the human realm barged into the immortals' abode. Even the experts from the ancestral realm could not sit still. Yi Beichen, the king of supreme beings, also broke through the layer of chaotic aura outside the immortals' abode. He took a step and arrived at the entrance of the immortals' abode. The entrance was wide open. It was pitch black inside, like a bottomless abyss that could devour any living being that approached the abyss at any time. Yi Beichen hesitated for a moment, but he still walked through the entrance and disappeared inside. The blood rain was still falling. It was very strange. No one knew where the blood rain came from. It seemed to appear out of thin air, and the blood rain contained a powerful corrosive power. It could even corrode the protective divine light of a quasi-supremacy. After Yi Beichen entered the immortals' abode, a group of experts from the ancestral realm followed closely behind him and entered the immortals' abode. At this time, dozens of quasi-supremacy realm experts had already entered the immortals' abode. Until now, no one had come out. From the Black Flood Dragon quasi-supremacy and the Nine-Headed Lion quasi-supremacy who entered first to the group from the ancestral realm, no one came out. Jiu Ling saw that the golden-winged little Peng Emperor had also entered the immortals' abode. Even several great monsters from the demon race's ancestral land had entered the immortals' abode. The ancient desolate forces of the human realm had also sent people. They were the divine sons and saintesses of these ancient desolate forces, all of whom were quasi-supremacy existences. The Jiang family's little supreme had also come. The Jiang family's little supreme was a descendant of Jiang Renhuang. He possessed heaven-defying talent and the speed of his cultivation was astonishing. Jiang Renhuang had brought him along and personally guided him for several years. Jiang Gichen, the Jiang family's little supreme, had swept away all his opponents since his debut. He was almost invincible and was known as the Jiang family's little supreme. Compared to the divine sons and saintesses of the Zhao family, Zhu family, and Li family, Jiangachen was much stronger. The divine sons and saintesses of the ancient desolate forces of the human realm clustered around Jiangachen and arrived in front of the entrance of the immortal's abode. Without any hesitation, Jiangachen and the others directly entered the entrance. As the Jiang family's little supreme, Jiangachen had the confidence to ignore all kinds of dangers in the immortal's abode. The Tianji live broadcast platform had long been in an uproar. The Jiang family's little supreme had made a big name for himself in the human realm. The appearance of Di Zhoutian and the Jiang family's little supreme caused a sensation on the Tianji live broadcast platform. "Junior sister, I'll go in and have a look first." After saying that, Di Zhoutian directly rushed towards the immortal's abode with the blood-dripping spear in his hand. When he arrived in front of the layer of primal chaos chi, he slashed with the blood-dripping spear in his hand and immediately cut a 1,000-foot-long crack in the primal chaos chi. He strode in, passed through the primal chaos chi, and arrived outside the immortal's abode. Without stopping, he stepped into the stone door and soon disappeared. Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow still didn't move. At this time, even the old tortoise couldn't sit still. How could he let go of a great opportunity and fortune in the immortal's abode? At this time, a terrifying energy fluctuation came from the depths of the primal chaos chi. Endless primal chaos chi surged, and powerful figures emerged from the depths of the primal chaos chi. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. Countless warriors clad in battle armor and wielding spears walked out of the primal chaos rift. Their killing intent soared into the sky. Every single one of these warriors was incredibly powerful. They were all holy venerables. Over 1,000 fighters formed a battle formation and charged over from afar. Their presence was earth-shaking, and even the expressions of quasi-sovereigns changed. The soldiers of the Pingtian Empire of the primal beginning world. An expert from the primal beginning world cried out. The 1,000 soldiers were imposing and filled with battle intent. They directly tore through the primal chaos chi outside the immortal's abode and killed their way into the immortal's abode. Roar! Just when the soldiers of the Pingtian Empire killed their way into the immortal's abode, a furious roar rang out from afar. Another group of soldiers charged over from afar, and wherever they passed by, countless experts would retreat. It's the army of the Wuji Empire of the human world. The expressions of the experts from the celestial world and human world could not help but change. The Wuji Empire was extremely powerful. It was the greatest empire in the human world, and the Wuji Empire's imperial lord was an extreme sovereign. This empire basically unified the world. Of course, due to the existence of heavenly punishment, the imperial lord had to seal up his cultivation. Boom! The Wuji Empire's army was extremely powerful. They directly shattered the primal chaos chi outside the immortal's abode and killed their way in. Very soon, powerful pulses of energy appeared in the immortal's abode. What's happening? They've started fighting as soon as they entered the immortal's abode. Heavens, it's the soldiers of the Pingtian Empire. They've actually set up an ambush in the immortal's abode and ambushed the army of the Wuji Empire. A few soldiers of the Wuji Empire flew out from the immortal's abode and directly exploded into a bloody mist in outer space. There were also soldiers of the Pingtian Empire who were blasted out and also exploded into a bloody mist. Their souls had been destroyed. God damn it. How despicable. Do they think there's no one in the human world? The countless experts from the human world and celestial world who saw this through the Heavenly Secrets livestream were both shocked and furious. Clear the path for our sacred prince. Anyone who comes in will die. An old divine general of the Pingtian Empire appeared at the entrance of the immortal's abode. He carried a divine general on his spear. He was the divine general who had led the Wuji Empire's army into the immortal's abode. That was a quasi-sovereign, yet he had actually died. His corpse was even carried on the enemy's spear, causing blood to drip down the spear. The old divine general was awe-inspiring. He glanced around and looked down on the world. The Wuji Empire's army has been wiped out. How is this possible? Does the Pingtian Empire want to become enemies with the world? Someone cried out. Is the sacred Prince Pingtian coming? This guy is just too brutal. Many experts from the primordial world had come as well. As soon as they thought of the Pingtian Empire, they all began to sweat. It was definitely a colossal existence that had existed for countless years. It was an eternal empire that could rival imperishable sects and supreme clans. At this moment, the old divine general stood at the entrance of the immortals' abode. For a moment, no one dared to approach him. However, very soon, a sneer rang out. Afterwards, a figure walked over from afar. It was a young monk with a violet gold alms bowl. This guy, everyone's eyes widened when they saw him. Hehe, that old guy is going to be unlucky. Chapter 44-32. In the Primeval world, the old general of the Pingtian Divine Empire was extremely domineering. He actually stood at the entrance of the immortal estate, wanting to stop the various experts who wanted to enter. He's far too arrogant. Does he think he's an invincible exalt? He's looking down on the experts of the celestial world, human world, and ancestral world. He's looking to die. Some people were very disdainful. They did not believe that the old general of the heavens equal divine empire could fend off the experts of the three organizations. After all, just the celestial world was very complicated, let alone the experts of the ancestral world who had crossed over. Everyone, don't make a mistake. The old divine general looked around. His battle intent surged as his eyes shone with light that was several thousand meters long. It was like a supreme sword, piercing through space. At that moment, the experts were all stunned by the old general's might. No one actually stepped forward. They had to admit that the old general was very powerful. He was a supreme expert who had emerged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. However, it was basically a joke in the eyes of some people if he wanted to make the experts of the three worlds lower their heads all by himself. Ha, a powerful figure began to laugh aloud in the distance. It was as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Sir, your murderousness is far too heavy. Why don't you join my school of Buddhism and practice the Dharma of Buddhism? Wouldn't that be great? At this moment, a white-robed young monk with an alms bowl walked over from afar. It's him. Jiu Ling's eyes immediately lit up when she saw him. She had never thought that he would come as well. Little baldy Fan Xiu? The old turtle was delighted when he saw the young monk. There was going to be a show to watch now. The people who knew about Fan Xiu were all amused. This guy was the most difficult existence to deal with in the world. Boom. What responded to little monk Fan Xiu was a ray of resplendent divine light. The old general didn't say anything and directly raised the spear in his hand that was still dripping with blood and stabbed towards little monk Fan Xiu. The resplendent streak of light was like a startling streak of light. It immediately surged to a great height, directly piercing through space and arriving before Fan Xiu in a single moment. Clang. Fan Xiu used the alms bowl in his hand to block the attack. He only felt his hand shake, and he was blown back by several thousand meters. Benefactor, lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Today, I will help you become a Buddha. Little monk Fan Xiu had a compassionate look on his face. The next moment, his figure disappeared into thin air without a trace. Even the old tortoise did not see how he disappeared. Where did he go? Old General Pingtian's heart trembled. This little baldy was not simple. Whoosh. A beam of divine light shot out from the center of Pingtian's brows and scanned the world. Under the gaze of the heavenly eye, nothing could hide. Even some great demons in human form instantly revealed their true forms when they were scanned by the old general's heavenly gaze. So it's three eyes, my God. A shout came from behind the old general. In the next moment, a purple gold alms bowl smashed into the back of the old general's head with a clang. Roar. The old general roared and swept the spear in his hand behind him. This time, his vision darkened and he felt dizzy. He almost fainted. Why are you being so fierce? Lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Little monk Fan Xiu appeared and disappeared mysteriously. With another clang, the purple gold alms bowl in his hand smashed into the old general's head again. This time, the old general staggered and almost fell. Two huge bumps appeared on his head, causing him to see stars. He was so angry that he almost spat blood. Roar. Heavenly merit of 100 battles. Kill. The old general almost went mad from anger. He had never been ambushed like this before. It was a great humiliation to a god of death like him. Buzz. Boundless divine power burst out of the old general's body, turning into densely packed spears that pierced in all directions. No matter where little monk Fan Xiu hid, he could not hide anymore. Aya, you're quite fierce. I want you to become a Buddha, but you're not willing. You don't know how to appreciate favors. Little monk Fan Xiu's figure appeared in the void. However, what was shocking was that the countless battle spears that were aimed at him actually passed through his body, as if they were stabbing an illusion. Formless and formless, all techniques returned to the origin. Little monk Fan Xiu was like a phantom. He instantly arrived in front of the old general. All attacks seemed to be useless against him. What a guy! The old tortoise could not help but be shocked when he saw this. It seemed like little monk Fan Xiu had obtained some powerful Buddhist ability in the Myriad Buddha Palace. The Myriad Buddha Palace was a palace left behind by the Buddhist Lord. It contained the Buddhist Lord's inheritance and the legendary immortal Golden Buddha tree. It had to be said that little monk Fan Xiu had obtained great fortune. Go to hell! The old general roared and attacked. The spear in his hand seemed to be burning. Endless divine flames erupted from the spear, destroying the void right away. The countless experts watching the battle nearby could not help but be moved when they saw the old general's earth-shaking attack. The battle prowess of the attack was close to extreme grade. Clearly, the people of the primordial world knew that they could not use extreme grade powers here. However, in the next moment, little monk Fan Xiu disappeared in the void like a phantom from the old general's attack. What? The old war general's shock was no small matter. Under his strike, even the void was being destroyed, yet this fella actually disappeared? How was that possible? Just as the old general was feeling shocked, a huge golden palm descended from the sky. With a boom, the old general was slammed into the ground. The golden palm dispersed, and a human-shaped pit appeared on the ground. Little monk Fan Xiu fell from the sky. Everyone was dumbfounded. Old General Pingtian, who had been so overbearing earlier, had been defeated by little monk Fan Xiu with a single attack. I told you to put down your weapon and become a Buddha with me, so why didn't you? Sigh. Little monk Fan Xiu sighed as if he was compassionate. This guy is too good at pretending. Seeing this from afar, the old tortoise really wanted to give Fan Xiu's shiny head a few hard knocks. At that moment, little monk Fan Xiu extended his hand and lifted the old general up from the ground. The old general, who had been awe-inspiring and looked down on the world and dared to fight against the experts of the world, was now in an extremely miserable state. Who knew how many bones in his body had been broken? In some places, the broken bones had even pierced through his skin and flesh. Sigh. Why did you have to force me to use my demon-subduing technique? Why? Little monk Fan Xiu shook his head and sighed. Spurt. Chapter 44-33. The little monk, Fan Xiu, had actually smashed the invincible general of the Pingtian Divine Empire into the ground with a single slap. He was already half dead. The worst part was that the little monk was even shaking his head and sighing in pity. In the old general's eyes, this was definitely the greatest insult to him. The old general became furious as he was lifted up by the little monk like a little chick. He vomited a mouthful of blood. The countless experts who saw this through the Tianji streaming platform were all dumbfounded. This little baldy was definitely a supreme being among the Buddhist. Ever since the little monk joined the Myriad Buddha Palace, he seemed to have undergone a complete transformation. His battle prowess had increased to a level where even the old turtle's expression changed. In particular, he had practiced some kind of powerful Buddhist ability that allowed him to ignore all attacks. At this moment, the sounds of battle rang out from the entrance of the immortal's estate. Clearly, the soldiers of the Pingtian Divine Empire had not completely destroyed the army of the Wuji Empire of the human world. The Wuji Empire was the greatest empire of the human world after all. The emperor of the Wuji Empire was extremely powerful. In the entire human world, only Renhuang Jiang of the Jiang family could rival the emperor of the Wuji Empire. It would not be easy for the soldiers of the Pingtian Divine Empire to destroy the army of the Wuji Empire. Sigh. There won't be a lot of conflict and slaughter in this world anymore. Yep, if I don't go to hell, who will? Let me purify these people. The little monk, Fan Xiu, acted righteously. He directly tossed the old general into his inner world before striding into the immortal's estate. This guy's acting is just too good. The old turtle could not help but admire Fan Xiu, who knew the little monk's background. The old general had been dealt with by the little monk, so the various experts used this opportunity to use their various abilities. They directly broke through the chaotic qi around the immortal's estate and arrived before the entrance. Without any hesitation, they directly charged into the immortal's estate. At that moment, countless streaks of light charged towards the entrance from all directions. Even Saint Venerables and Saint Kings used their Dao artifacts to protect themselves as they charged into the immortal's estate. They wanted to fight for the fortuitous encounters in the immortal's estate. In total, tens of thousands of saint-level and above experts had entered the immortal abode. The gate of the immortal mansion was like a huge mouth that could devour all living things in the world, as if it would never be full. All right, let's go in too, Jiu Ling said to Qin Yarrow. All right. Qin Yarrow hurriedly nodded. She couldn't sit still any longer. She could tell that this immortal estate was extraordinary. If she wasn't with Jiu Ling, she would have barged in long ago. Just as they were about to move, an incomparably shocking sound suddenly rang out from the depths of the primal chaos rift. In the next moment, the primal chaos energy in the depths of the primal chaos rift surged violently, and one giant figure after another charged out of the primal chaos energy. That is, everyone who saw this through the Tianji live broadcast was shocked. Needless to say, another expert from the primordial realm had arrived. Hey! Even Qin Yarrow was taken aback. The giant figures that charged out of the depths of the primal chaos were all dragons, powerful existences at the ancestral dragon level. They were 9 ancestral dragons. When 9 ancestral dragons appeared at the same time, the pressure that erupted from these ancestral dragons was earth-shattering. Some of the experts who hadn't entered the immortal mansion were shocked. What was even more shocking was that these 9 ancestral dragons were pulling a chariot behind them. 9 dragons pulling a chariot. What a grand display. Even Qin Yarrow was dumbfounded when she saw this. She was the princess of an imperial clan, and her father was the legendary Yin-Yang Emperor. Even the Yin-Yang Emperor, who was invincible in the 9 heavens and made countless experts bow their heads, had never used an ancestral dragon to pull a chariot. Those were ancestral dragons, pitilessly powerful. The appearance of any ancestral dragon could cause a great commotion. Who is coming? Could it be an extreme path supreme being? Someone exclaimed. A figure stood on the chariot. It was an existence even more destructive than the sun. He drove the chariot over, and he was like a legendary heavenly emperor patrolling the skies. Banners fluttered behind the chariot. It was actually a powerful army of gods. There were 10,000 people in the army, and the killing aura they radiated was earth-shaking. Is that the sacred prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire? An expert from the grand primordial world cried out. The sacred prince had arrived with 9 dragons pulling the chariot. He was extremely powerful, which stunned everyone. Even Jiu Ling's expression changed. The sacred prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire was just too grand. How dare you? Even when my father was invincible in the 9 heavens, he didn't have such a grand display when he traveled. The old turtle stared at the figure on the chariot as the light in his eyes flickered. Using an ancestral dragon to pull a chariot was definitely an insult to the dragon clan. The old turtle also had dragon blood flowing through him because his father, the Grand Primordial Emperor, was an ancestral dragon. At this moment, the sacred prince glanced around from the chariot. He directly ignored all the experts before leading his army into the immortal's estate. Jiu Ling and Qin Yarrow entered the immortal's estate as well. The moment they entered the celestial abode, the smell of blood surged into their noses. The inside of the celestial abode was a completely different world. In a desolate area, there were corpses after corpses, and the scarlet blood was so glaring to the eye. These were the corpses of the soldiers of the Pingtian Divine Empire and the army of the Wuji Empire. Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow discovered that there were still battle cries ringing out from up ahead. An almost immortal figure rose into the air and killed his way into a valley. Roar! The 9 ancestral dragons roared at the sky, shaking up the surroundings. However, a huge beast shadow appeared in the valley. A huge beast claw came out of the valley and grabbed an ancestral dragon, dragging it into the valley. Afterwards, the ancestral dragon's roar of despair rang out from the valley. Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow were both surprised. The battle in the valley up ahead was extremely terrifying. It had already become a terrifying battlefield where supreme experts fought. Something that could make supreme experts fight with their lives on the line was definitely something impressive. Jiyu Ling's instincts told her that there was definitely something that could drive the supreme experts crazy in the valley up ahead. Otherwise, the sacred prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire would not have personally taken action. They could vaguely hear a Buddhist chant from the valley. Clearly, the little monk, Fan Xiu, was in there as well. I wonder if Di Jotian is in there or not. Qin Yarrow murmured as she stared at the valley filled with killing intent. Chapter 44-34. Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow finally entered the mysterious Immortals Estate. The ancient Immortals Estate had existed for who knows how long. It seemed like it had existed since the beginning of time. No one knew who the original owner of the estate was. However, there would definitely be great fortuitous encounters in a place like this. Even sovereigns would be moved, and quasi-sovereigns would go crazy. In reality, the quasi-sovereigns who had entered the Immortals Estate had already gone crazy. Boom! Bam! Muffled sounds of collisions constantly rang out from a valley within the Immortals Estate. Extremely powerful pulses of power from quasi-sovereigns surged out, causing the entire valley to shake. If it were not for the support of the formation, the entire valley probably would have been destroyed long ago. Those guys, when Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow approached the valley, they could not help but leap in fright at the sight before them. The interior of the Immortals Estate was basically another world. They had only just entered, yet they had already encountered a battle on such a level. Roar! Blood surged in the valley as a huge beast slaughtered its way in and out. Its huge claws dripped with blood. It was the blood of a quasi-sovereign. Boundless murderous aura surged out from the beast's body, causing even the sky to change color. Qin Yarrow stared at the huge beast and became extremely stern. A scarlet blood barbaric dragon? Jiyu Ling was rather surprised when she saw the beast. She had never thought that she would see an ancient beast like that in the Immortals Estate. The scarlet blood barbaric dragon was an ancient species. Its name contained the word dragon, so it was a distant relative of the dragon clan. It was extremely violent and powerful. Adult scarlet blood barbaric dragons could hunt and eat ancestral dragons. Earlier, the barbaric dragon in the valley had caught an ancestral dragon that the sacred prince of the Pingtian Divine Empire was pulling into the valley and directly eaten it. Die, beast! At this moment, a furious roar rang out from the valley. A figure as resplendent as the sun directly rushed into the sky and threw a punch at the scarlet blood barbaric dragon. When that person punched out, the divine light that blossomed from his fist illuminated the entire world. Gulling could vaguely see a few figures rapidly retreating. The experts in the valley had no intention of joining forces with that person. The scarlet blood barbaric dragon roared and swatted towards the man with its huge claws. The beast's strength was extremely violent, and it collided with the man's fist. Rumble! It was as if hundreds of thousands of divine mountains had exploded. The heavens and the earth were collapsing, and the universe was overturned. The power of destruction swept out in all directions, and ancient Tao patterns appeared in the entire valley. Even in the void, there were Tao patterns appearing, freezing the void and protecting this valley. The world inside the Immortal Palace was protected by the power of the great Tao. Even if a quasi-supreme being were to attack with all their strength, it would be difficult for them to cause too much damage here. Of course, there would still be damage, but it wouldn't be too great, and it wouldn't destroy the world inside the immortal abode. Cracks appeared in the valley, but they quickly disappeared as if they had never appeared. This part of the world had the ability to repair itself. This was the attack of the sacred prince of the Pingtian Empire. The 9 ancestral dragons that pulled his chariot had been eaten by the scarlet blood barbaric dragon, and the chariot had been destroyed as well, which made him utterly furious. He was tempted to blast the savage beast to pieces. However, reality was cruel. The scarlet blood barbaric dragon was an adult, so it was extremely powerful. Even if it faced a group of quasi-sovereigns, it could still kill its way in and out. Even a few early quasi-sovereigns had died to its claws. The sacred prince was knocked back as blood oozed from the corner of his lips. The scarlet blood barbaric dragon was knocked back as well. It stomped on the ground, causing huge cracks to appear. Blood dripped from its claws. At this moment, the other quasi-sovereigns were attacking an ancient divine hall in the depths of the valley. A ball of primordial light shone out from the divine hall. The primordial chi of the world was the ancestral chi of the world. All the quasi-sovereigns became extremely envious of it. They all wanted to attack the divine hall and take the ball of primordial light away. It was the ball of primordial light enshrined in the divine hall that almost drove the quasi-sovereigns insane. They went as far as to attack and kill each other. However, the divine hall was not large, but it was protected by formations. There were 9 stone golems, and every single one of them possessed the battle prowess of a peak quasi-sovereign. With the support of the formations, the battle prowess the 9 stone golems could display was even more shocking. They might be able to rival extreme sovereigns. At this moment, over a dozen quasi-sovereigns were attacking the divine hall, but none of them managed to kill their way in. The valley was littered with corpses. Basically none of the corpses were complete. They were all saints at or above the saint realm. There were even quasi-sovereigns who had died. The valley had already turned into a slaughterhouse. The 9 stone golems were extremely powerful. Even the saintesses and godsons of the primordial world were helpless against them. Boom! The chaotic child struck out and clashed with one of the stone golems. He was directly forced back as blood dripped from his hand. So powerful. The chaotic child was shocked. The wound on his hand was healing rapidly. On the other side, the Heaven Equal Sect's godson, Kai Hao, was also testing the waters. However, just like the chaotic child, he was also forced back by a stone golem. He could not gain any advantage. There were faint electric sparks swimming around the bodies of these stone golems. They were not ordinary electric sparks, but chaotic electric sparks that could injure quasi-sovereigns. War puppets refined from chaotic thunder calamity stones? Kai Hao was shocked. There were 9 stone golems here, and every single one of them was refined from chaotic thunder calamity stones. This was definitely a great deal. One had to know that even a small piece of chaotic thunder calamity stone was difficult to find. It was an immortal material exclusive to extreme sovereigns and could be used to refine extreme Dao artifacts. Each of these 9 stone golems was no different from a real person. Such a large chaotic thunder calamity stone was definitely rare. Even an extreme sovereign would not be able to find one in the entire world. Not to mention the mass of primordial chi in the shrine, even subduing any one of these 9 stone golems would be a great fortune. At this time, the other quasi-sovereigns were also attacking. Powerful quasi-sovereigns erupted and shook the void. However, all the quasi-sovereigns were forced back by the stone golems. A bunch of trash. A cold laugh was heard. A figure walked over from afar. It was a white-robed youth. He had delicate features but was very arrogant. Yin and yang energies surged around the white-robed youth. These energies were different from the others. They moved according to a mysterious trajectory. They could gather and disperse, and sometimes even turn into nothingness. The everlasting palace's Ji Yao. Seeing the white-robed youth, the chaotic child and Kai Hao revealed a trace of disdain. They did not like this guy. The Everlasting Palace was a great sect in the primordial realm. There were many experts in the sect. This Ji Yao was the Everlasting Palace's current generation godson. He was very powerful. However, this Ji Yao was very wild and arrogant. He did not take the chaotic child and Kai Hao seriously at all. He thought that he was the strongest existence in the younger generation. Ji Yao directly charged into the formation of the stone golems. However, very quickly, This guy was punched by a stone golem. He was sent flying and vomited blood. He was in an extremely sorry state. Haha. Chapter 44-35. Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow stood high up in the sky, watching the battle in the valley ahead. The sacred prince of the Pingtian Empire was extremely forceful. He actually fought the scarlet blood barbaric dragon endlessly. He was truly angered, or he would not have become entangled with the dragon instead of attacking the divine hall. It had to be mentioned that the sacred Prince Pingtian really was outstanding. He was actually able to fight evenly against the scarlet blood dragon. The outcome of the battle could not be determined for a while. However, in the depths of the valley, outside the shrine's grand protective formation, there were quasi-supremes being injured or even killed. The sage-level experts had already retreated, leaving behind many corpses of sage-level experts on the ground. There were also corpses of quasi-supremes mixed in with the corpses of sage-level experts. A quasi-supreme being's physical body was extremely powerful and almost indestructible. Even if they died and left behind their corpses, the powerful aura emitted from their corpses would still make saints' hearts palpitate. As for those quasi-supremes who were still alive, their auras were even more terrifying. At that moment, Ji Yarrow, the divine prince of the Wuji Palace, who had appeared in a domineering manner and ignored the divine princes and saintesses of the grand beginning realm, was sent flying by a stone golem in the divine hall's protective array. He lay on the ground like a dead dog, unable to even stand up for a moment. Haha, calling us trash? You're the trash among trash. Chaos Z laughed with a disdainful look on his face. Hihi, this fellow thinks too highly of himself. He thinks he's invincible. A holy son of a large sect from the primordial beginning realm mocked. This isn't the limitless palace where you can act like a tyrant. Someone said coldly. When Ji Yarrow heard the ridicule of the people around him, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, a man shrouded in golden light walked over. An ant from the lower realm dares to appear here? Lowly creature, scram. The divine sons and saintesses of the grand beginning realm were extremely disdainful when they saw this person. They wanted to chase this ant away like he was a fly. That person sneered as his body trembled. In the next moment, a terrifying energy fluctuation of the quasi-supreme being realm erupted from his body, causing the surrounding void to ripple. Who are you calling an ant? Another figure walked out of the mist. This was a purple-clothed youth. He wasn't exactly handsome, and there was a vertical purple mark between his eyebrows that looked like a closed vertical eye. Jiangge-chen? The golden-shrouded youth was a little surprised to see the purple-clad youth. Golden-winged little Peng Emperor, the purple-clothed youth also recognized him. Humph. Our primordial world is the beginning of all worlds. We are high above. How can you ants from the lower worlds imagine us? The son of chaos glanced at the two of them coldly. His eyes were filled with disdain. That's right, you lowly bastards. I can crush you with a single finger, and I can kill a whole bunch of you with a single slap. A blood-haired young man raised his chin high, and his face was filled with disdain. He was the demon son of the blood-hell demonic art from the primordial world, Blood Dark Child. These guys are too arrogant. In the distance, when Jiyu Ling saw this scene, she could not help but feel displeased. Did these fellows think that just because they came from the primordial realm, they were superior? Claiming to be invincible? Sister, these guys are blessed by nature. It's natural for them to be a little arrogant, Qin Yarrow said with a smile. Jiyu Ling frowned and said, even though these people are very strong, we are not weaker than them. Of course. Qin Yarrow said. While Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow were talking, Jiangge-chen and the other quasi-supremes from the heaven realm and human realm had already confronted the divine sons and saintesses from the primordial world. At this time, some experts from the primordial world also entered the valley. Yi Lingtian, you're here too? Jiangge-chen looked at the white-clothed youth with a serious expression. The white-clothed youth was very strong. There were 9 divine lights circling around him, and each divine light tore through the void. He was like the emperor of the 9 heavens, extraordinary and otherworldly. Yi Lingtian was the number 1 among the direct descendants of the Yi clan in the primordial world. He was trained by the Yi clan with all their might. If there were no accidents, he would be the future leader of the Yi clan. Jiang Yichen knew about Yi Lingtian because he had fought with him before. Yi Lingtian crossed over to the Heaven Realm. After entering the Heaven Realm, he directly went to one of the great sects in the Heaven Realm and challenged the strongest expert of the sect. The result was shocking. He defeated the leader of the great sect with a single move. Then, Yi Lingtian swept through the Heaven Realm. He was almost invincible among those of the same level. Not long ago, Yi Lingtian entered the human realm and went directly to the Jiang clan because he knew that the Jiang clan had a Renhuang. Such a cultivation family's inheritance was absolutely amazing. In fact, the Jiang clan did not disappoint Yi Lingtian. The Jiang clan produced Jiang Yichen, the Jiang clan's little sovereign. The battle between Yi Lingtian and Jiang Yichen lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. The two great experts almost used their trump cards, but in the end, it ended in a tie. Yi Lingtian challenged the experts of the Heaven Realm and Human Realm everywhere. His only purpose was to sharpen himself. He and Jiang Yichen did not fight to the death because it was not necessary. They were just exchanging pointers and communicating, not life and death. Yi Lingtian originally wanted to challenge Jiyu Ling, but he failed. When he found the ancestral land of the demon clan, Jiyu Ling had already gone to the western desert of the Heaven Realm to ask the little monk Fan Xiu for the 20 drops of immortal divine liquid and the 3 golden Buddha fruits. An ant is an ant. No matter how strong he is just a slightly stronger ant. Kai Hao shook his head disdainfully. He had the confidence to look down on the experts of the Heaven Realm and Human Realm because he defeated Azure Dragon in a few moves outside the Holy Realm abode and even took away Azure Dragon's giant dragon halberd. Kai Hao, why are you still talking so much with this rubbish? Let's hurry up and get rid of these ants, then fight for the opportunities inside. The Chaos Child said impatiently. That's right. The group of divine sons and saintesses nodded. Kill. Blood Mingzi roared and turned into a ray of bloodlight, pouncing towards Yi Lingtian and the others. The smell of blood immediately spread. Yi Lingtian sneered. In the next moment, the 9 rays of divine light circling around him immediately turned into 9 divine swords that slashed at the crimson light. The 9 sword lights flashed and the ray of bloodlight formed by Blood Mingzi was immediately cut into more than a dozen pieces. However, although the ray of bloodlight was cut into more than a dozen pieces, it immediately reconnected and continued to pounce towards Yi Lingtian. Divine Sun Fist. Chapter 44-36. Blood Mingzi was the demon son of the Blood Prison Demon Palace in the primal beginning realm. He was a famous figure even among the younger generation of the top forces in the primal beginning realm. The Blood Prison Demon Palace was no weaker than the Heaven's equal sect. Blood Mingzi was definitely an existence that could compete with the divine son of the Heaven's equal sect, Kai Hao. Moreover, the people of the Blood Prison Demon Palace were extremely murderous. They would often kill without saying a word. They were powerful, cruel, and overbearing. At this time, Blood Mingzi couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Yi Lingtian and the others. He directly attacked, wanting to kill all the ants in front of him. Blood Mingzi turned into a blood-devouring demonic light and charged at Yi Lingtian. In Blood Mingzi's eyes, Yi Lingtian's blood was the most vigorous. If he could devour this guy's blood essence, his cultivation would definitely improve a lot. At that time, no one here would be a match for him. Blood Mingzi's wishful thinking didn't work because Yi Lingtian wasn't someone to be trifled with. He didn't know Yi Lingtian's background. If he did, he wouldn't be so confident. Boom. What awaited Blood Mingzi was a fist even more dazzling than the sun. This was the ultimate battle technique of the ancestral realm's Yi clan, the Great Sun Divine Fist. Rumble, an incomparably dazzling sun rose in the valley. The surrounding void was annihilated and evaporated. The blood-devouring demonic light that Blood Mingzi had turned into was also evaporating. Under Yi Lingtian's Great Sun Divine Fist, the blood-devouring demonic light that Blood Mingzi had turned into suddenly dimmed as if it could dissipate at any time. What? The divine sons and saintesses from the primal beginning realm were all shocked to see this scene. There was a true dragon among these ants. How was that possible? Among the myriad worlds, Only the divine sons and saintesses of the primal beginning realm stood high above, looking down on the billions of creatures in the lower worlds. They were destined to become true dragons above the 9 heavens in the future. Boom! Under the shocked gazes of Kai Hao and the others, Blood Ming's bloody light dissipated from Yi Lingtian's punch and he fell out of the void. Cough, cough. Blood Mingzi kept falling back, coughing up blood. How is that possible? Blood Mingzi found it hard to believe that this ant in his eyes could actually injure him. Moreover, it had only been a single punch. Now, who is the ant? Yi Lingtian retracted his fist, and the divine light that illuminated the 9 heavens disappeared in an instant. You, blood-dark child, was both shocked and enraged by Yi Lingtian's words. In his agitation, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Good, good, good. I never imagined that there would be a figure like you amongst the ants of the lower dimensions. How about this? You'll follow by my side in the future and be my servant. Kai Hao took a step forward and looked at Yi Lingtian with his hands clasped behind his back. It was nothing for Yi Lingtian to defeat Blood Mingzi. With his current cultivation, defeating Blood Mingzi was as easy as flipping his palm. Ha ha, Yi Lingtian smiled. He was even a little speechless. These guys were too arrogant. At this time, they still wanted to take him in as a servant. What a moron. Brother Yi, why are you talking so much with these arrogant fellows? Let's get rid of these guys first. Jiangachen glanced at the divine sons and saintesses of the primordial world and said coldly. He didn't have a good impression of these guys at all. They thought they were superior, but in his eyes, weren't these guys just ants and trash? At this moment, a powerful figure appeared in the distance. A few experts watched on from afar. On the other side of the valley, the battle between the sacred Prince Pingtian and the Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon was about to come to an end as well. Both of them had become bloodshot. Roar. The Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon constantly roared. It constantly spat out scarlet flames towards the sacred Prince Pingtian. This Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon's body actually had several bloody holes that went through the front and back. Blood splashed everywhere. The barbaric dragon's blood was incomparably tyrannical. When it came into contact with the mountain rocks, it actually emitted black smoke and corroded the rocks. The sacred Prince Pingtian was like the sun in the sky. He radiated with boundless light. Every punch and kick he threw possessed great power, directly shaking the surrounding space. He was injured as well. There were 5 bloody marks on his abdomen and a hole on his chest. Through the hole, his beating heart could be seen. At their level of cultivation, physical injuries like this were basically negligible. However, they would still feel pain and bleed when they were injured. Kill. The sacred Prince Pingtian did not want to continue fighting, so he directly used the ultimate killing technique of the Pingtian Empire. His body seemed to burn, and his battle prowess suddenly skyrocketed. What? The Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon was surprised. It never thought that the sacred Prince Pingtian could still increase his battle prowess even at a time like this. Secret technique of the flaming heavens. The sacred Prince Pingtian seemed to turn into a burning blur. He tore through the Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon's defenses in a single moment and sank into its body. The Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon roared out in fright. In the next moment, flames appeared on the Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon's body as well. Its huge body actually deflated like a ball. Very soon, the mighty Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon was reduced to a bag of bones. Even the Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon's soul had been set alight. In just a few seconds, the powerful and ferocious Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon collapsed on the ground, dead. In the sky outside the valley, Jiyu Ling could not help but frown when he saw this. The secret technique that the sacred Prince Pingtian had used was very strange and terrifying. A secret technique that directly burns the flesh, blood, and soul of the enemy. Even Qin Yao's expression changed. The killing technique that the sacred Prince Pingtian had used was very extraordinary. Boom! The moment the Scarlet Blood Barbaric Dragon collapsed, its huge corpse suddenly exploded. It was blasted to pieces, and a figure charged out. His vital energy surged as strange flames rose up from his body. He was the sacred Prince Pingtian. Although the sacred Prince Pingtian had used the secret technique of the flaming heavens, Not only did his vital energy not weaken, but it became even more powerful instead. Even his wounds had vanished, as if he had never been injured in the first place. He only paused for a moment before turning around and charging into the depths of the valley. "Anyone who gets in my way will die." The sacred Prince Pingtian charged past and directly collided with over a dozen experts in front of him. The experts hurriedly retreated, but those who could not retreat in time were unlucky. 5 or 6 experts were smashed to pieces by the sacred prince who charged past them, exploding into a bloody mist. The experts who were not hit were scared out of their wits. The sacred Prince Pingtian's body was just too powerful. He did not even need to use any killing techniques to directly smash 5 or 6 experts from the heaven realm to death, shocking all the experts nearby. "Sister, this guy's body doesn't seem to be inferior to cultivators of the same level," Qin Yarrow exclaimed. "There are also powerful body tempering techniques in the primordial world, but they might not remember the body tempering techniques of us cultivators," Jiyu Ling said indifferently. Qin Yarrow smiled and did not say anything. Boom. At this moment, a loud sound rang out. In the next moment, the layer of mist above the valley dispersed, and a powerful ripple of energy spread out. The entire valley shook violently. Qin Yarrow looked over and saw a white-robed young man actually blocking the domineering sacred Prince Pingtian. The two experts' fists collided fiercely. The person who blocked the sacred Prince Pingtian was actually a fair-skinned fatty. This was unbelievable. At this moment, the two figures retreated. "Pure martial power," Jiyu Ling said with a deep voice. Jiyu Ling said in a deep voice. Who was this person? She was the true successor of martial arts. According to what she knew, there was only one successor of the martial ancestor in the heaven realm and human realm, and that was her father, Jiyu Fei. However, the power that the fatty had erupted with was definitely the most authentic martial power. Only those who had received the true legacy of martial arts could cultivate such pure martial power. What? Qin Yarrow was shocked when she heard that. She was the princess of the Qin clan. There was no doubt that the Qin clan was powerful. She knew very well that only Jiyu Fei's clan had received the true legacy of the martial ancestor in the human realm and human realm. Could he be the successor of senior brother Jiyu Zhong who walked the ancient path of the human race? Jiyu Ling suddenly said. At this moment, the atmosphere in the valley was extremely tense. "Little fatty, do you want to die?" The sacred Prince Pingtian was immediately enraged when he was blocked. His blood surged as streaks of blood-colored divine light circled around him. They tore through space like blood-colored lightning. "Haha, what? I do want to die. Can you kill me?" The fatty laughed loudly. "Go die." The sacred Prince Pingtian could not be bothered to waste his breath on this fellow. In the next moment, he suddenly disappeared into space. The fatty took a step forward and instantly moved 1,000 meters away. Boom. The ground where the fatty originally stood sank, causing dust to rise into the air. A figure charged out from the dust like a god of death, charging towards the fatty once again. "Do you think I'm easy to bully?" Although the fatty was fat, his movement technique was as fast as lightning. He shot into the air and slammed his palm towards the sacred Prince Pingtian below. Rumble. Boundless martial power erupted as a huge palm appeared in the sky. Like an ancient mountain, it smashed towards the sacred Prince Pingtian below. Heaven-covering palm? Seeing this, Jiyu Ling finally confirmed that the fatty was definitely her senior brother Jiyu Zhong's successor. The fatty's appearance was somewhat similar to Jiyu Zhong's. Could this guy be Jiyu Xiaofeng? Jiyu Ling suddenly thought of someone. Jiyu Xiaofeng was her senior brother Jiyu Zhong's son. The two of them had set foot on the human race's ancient path back then, and Jiyu Ling had not heard from them since. If it were not for the soul tablets left behind by her father, Jiyu Fei, she even suspected that the two of them had already died on the human race's ancient path. The sacred Prince Pingtian shot into the sky and directly threw a punch. The violent fist force seemed like it was going to blast a huge hole in the sky. Boom. Like two stars colliding, an unimaginably violent power erupted. The space was directly shattered, and a huge black hole appeared in the sky above the valley. Chapter 44-37. The sacred prince of the divine empire of the primordial world had actually been stopped by an unremarkable fatty. Who is this fellow? He actually dares to challenge His Royal Highness the Sacred Prince. This little fatty is simply courting death. Who is His Highness the Sacred Prince? He's the greatest person among the younger generation of the Pingtian divine empire. The divine princes and saintesses from the primal beginning realm were extremely shocked. Boom! Bam! Muffled sounds of collisions rang out incessantly. The entire world was shaking as one black hole after another appeared in the void. It was formed by the explosion of the void. However, the immortal estate world was incomparably stable. Those black holes that appeared in the void quickly disappeared, and the shattered void was quickly repaired by the power of the immortal estate world. Two figures moved quickly in the void, violently attacking the array. That little fatty must be Jiyu Xiaofeng. In the distant sky, Gulling, who was watching the battle, said with certainty, "Jiyu Xiaofeng?" Qin Yarrow was shocked when she heard this. Jiyu Xiaofeng's father was Jiyu Zhong and Jiyu Zhong was Jiyu Fei's disciple. If this person was really Jiyu Xiaofeng, it would be too inconceivable. Even a grand disciple of Jiyu Fei was so powerful. "Little fatty, die!" The sacred prince roared out. With a wave of his right hand, a spear immediately appeared in his hand. Whoosh! The light pierced through space. The spear in the sacred Prince Pingtian's hand turned into a shocking streak of light. It pierced through the surroundings and arrived before the little fatty in a single instance. Chaotic rebellion. Little fatty sneered and immediately used one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the chaos reversal secret art. The next moment, the power of chaos burst forth from his body, causing the surrounding void to distort as if the world was being reversed. The streak of light that pierced towards the little fatty actually vanished in an instant. In the next moment, it suddenly reappeared and pierced towards the sacred prince. "What? You reversed my attack?" The sacred Prince Pingtian was taken aback. He knew the power of his attack very well. Regular quasi-sovereigns would not be able to block it, yet Yi Futian had actually managed to turn his attack around. At this moment, the sacred Prince Pingtian extended his right hand and directly grabbed the ray of light that pierced towards him. The divine light dispersed, and a battle spear appeared in the sacred prince's hand. "Haha, what do you think? You don't have the ability to kill me," little fatty said with a laugh. "Little fellow, if you provoke me, you will die a horrible death." The sacred prince roared furiously. In the next moment, he directly charged towards the little fatty with his spear. He did not use any killing techniques. He wanted to crush his opponent with absolute power. This was a method to break his opponent's divine art. The sacred Prince Pingtian was indeed powerful. He had only probed the other party's strength, but he had already seen through the other party's strength. "Close combat with me?" Little fatty was overjoyed. Martial artists were best at close combat. Once a martial artist got close to them, the cultivator would be in for a tragedy. Clang! Little fatty blocked with his hands. His palms slammed against the spear in little Supreme Pingtian's hand, and a metallic sound rang out. The sacred Prince Pingtian was truly moved. This guy's physical body was actually so powerful that he could take on a Tao artifact with his bare hands. How could such a powerful existence appear in this backward world? Ascend. Little fatty did not want to be entangled with this guy anymore, so he directly used the ascend secret technique of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. Rumble, a pitilessly powerful martial power erupted from little fatty's body. He extended his right hand and directly grabbed the sacred Prince Pingtian's spear. Catcher. Little fatty exerted force, and the spear in the sacred Prince Pingtian's hand broke into 2. The sacred Prince Pingtian was in disbelief. This guy did not use his full strength just now. The sacred Prince Pingtian was shocked by little fatty's sudden increase in battle prowess. It seemed that this guy had grasped a secret technique that could increase his battle prowess. The sacred Prince Pingtian was directly pushed back. Roar! He roared furiously as streaks of blood-red light shot out from his body. He had used the flattening blood secret technique again, and all the blood in his body was burning. Whoosh! Like a blood-colored phantom, he pounced towards the little fatty. Just then, the extremely powerful scarlet blood barbaric dragon had died to the sacred prince's attack. The vigorous scarlet blood barbaric dragon had been sucked dry. Oh no! Jiyu Ling could not help but become nervous when she saw the sacred prince Pingtian use this ability from afar. Even Qin Yarrow narrowed her eyes. The sacred prince Pingtian's ability was definitely not inferior to those extreme abilities. Hehe, you want to kill me with this move? The little fatty smiled slyly. In the next moment, his entire body seemed to have become one with the void around him. Although he was standing there, no one could sense his presence. He was like a shadow, like an illusion, as if he did not exist in this world. The blood-red figure that the sacred Prince Pingtian had turned into actually charged past little fatty. It was unable to enter his body at all. What? The sacred Prince Pingtian's figure clearly emerged from the blood-red light. He was extremely shocked. He had never thought that this fellow could actually ignore his trump card. Even in the grand primordial world, there were not many people who could break through his ability. Boom! At this moment, little fatty shuddered and directly threw a punch towards the sacred Prince Pingtian. The violent force directly sent the sacred Prince Pingtian flying. How dare you! The sacred Prince Pingtian constantly coughed up blood. There was a huge flaw with the flattening blood secret technique. If he missed, he would be burning his own blood. In just an instant, the sacred Prince Pingtian's aura weakened significantly. The sacred Prince Pingtian glared at the fatty viciously. He knew very well that he could only cast the secret technique 3 more times at most. Once he failed to do anything to his opponent, he would burn his vital energy and die. Hee, what sacred prince? In my eyes, he's just SOSO. Little fatty said in disdain. The people of the primal beginning realm were incomparably arrogant and thought that they were superior to others. This was why little fatty was very unhappy. He was not weaker than others, and he was not weaker than the so-called divine sons and saintesses of the primal beginning realm. Sacred Prince Pingtian was enraged. Every strand of his hair stood on end as he stared at the little fatty with a cold gaze. He had never been looked down on like this before, and this guy was an ant from a backward world in his eyes. He was actually mocked by an ant. Kill. Without wasting any time, the sacred prince charged towards the little fatty once again. He opened his mouth, and countless bolts of lightning immediately shot out, blasting towards the little fatty. Every single bolt of lightning tore through the surrounding space. However, the little fatty reached out with his right hand, and the countless lightning bolts bombarding him were actually caught in his hand. The countless lightning bolts turned into a ball of lightning in his hand. The sacred Prince Pingtian was completely dumbfounded. I'll return it to you. Little fatty waved his right hand, and the ball of lightning immediately flew out. It struck the sacred Prince Pingtian in an instant. The sacred Prince Pingtian shrieked miserably. In the next moment, he was enveloped by countless bolts of lightning. Boom! With a loud rumble, the powerful power of lightning erupted, directly causing the sacred Prince Pingtian's hair to stand on end. His face was pitch black as black smoke rose from his body. His clothes were tattered, and he was in a horrible shape. Swish! There was a flash of light in the air, and in the next moment, the sacred Prince Pingtian's head flew into the air. Unknowingly, a sword had appeared in little fatty's hand. My strongest battle skill is the sword. Little fatty did not even glance at the sacred Prince Pingtian's corpse. He directly stowed his sword away before looking in the direction of Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow. The sacred Prince Pingtian is dead. How is this possible? The divine sons and saintesses from the primal beginning realm were all dumbfounded. They were extremely shocked and horrified. This lowly native had actually killed the sacred prince of Pingtian, a giant dragon? All the experts from the primal prime realm were in disbelief. The sacred Prince Pingtian was the most powerful existence among the younger generation of the primal prime realm's Pingtian divine empire. Someone as important as him had actually died here. The sacred Prince Pingtian would definitely cause an unimaginable disturbance once the news reached the Pingtian divine empire. The little fatty chuckled as he went up and searched through all the good things on the sacred Prince Pingtian. After the sacred Prince Pingtian was killed, his inner world directly became riddled with cracks. It was about to collapse very soon. Little Fatty was extremely bold. He had actually barged into the sacred Prince Pingtian's inner world that was about to collapse and searched through it thoroughly before emerging in satisfaction. Boom. Afterwards, the sacred Prince Pingtian's inner world directly collapsed. It shrank and turned into chaos. Everything in it was destroyed by the devastating power. What sacred prince? He's even poorer than me. He doesn't even have a proper Supreme Tao artifact. The Little Fatty cursed. In reality, it was not that the sacred Prince Pingtian did not have a Supreme Tao artifact. Instead, he had been killed before he could use it. The Supreme Tao artifact on the sacred Prince Pingtian had fled as soon as he died. It wasn't that easy to obtain a Supreme Tao tool. One must know that Supreme Tao tools had a life of their own. To subdue a Supreme Tao tool, it could only be done by a Supreme Tao expert. Of course, if the Supreme Tao artifact accepted someone as its master, the Little Fatty would be extremely lucky. However, a Supreme Tao artifact with a master would never abandon its original master and accept someone else as its master. Just as the sacred Prince Pingtian was killed by the Little Fatty, Yi Lingtian and the god of the heavens equal sect from the primal prime realm fought outside the protective formation of the divine hall in the depths of the valley. Jiangichen also began fighting against the chaotic child. Chapter 44-38. One had to say that the divine princes and saintesses of the primal beginning realm were indeed much more powerful than the cultivators of the same level in the heaven realm and the human realm. They weren't inferior to the saintesses of the heaven sects and the divine princes from the primal beginning realm at all. On the other hand, there weren't many quasi-supremes from the ancestral realm on Yi Lingtian's side. There were only 4 or 5 of them, including Yi Lingtian. However, there were more than a dozen divine princes and saintesses from the primal beginning realm. Each of them was the most outstanding descendant of a large sect in the primal beginning realm. After the battle broke out, Yi Lingtian and Jiangichen found it difficult to resist. However, Yi Lingtian fought against Kai Hao of the Heavens Equal Sect and Jiangichen fought against the chaotic child of the chaotic god of War Palace, blocking the 2 most powerful existences in the primal beginning realm. On the other hand, the other divine princes and saintesses of the primal beginning realm were the quasi-supremes of the heaven realm, the human realm and the ancestral realm. Boom! A red-haired divine prince of the primordial beginning realm sent a descendant of a large sect in the human world flying with a punch. He was extremely powerful. Fat! A saintess of a sacred ground in the primal beginning realm pointed with her finger. A descendant of a large clan in the heaven realm screamed as his forehead was pierced. He fell from the sky and died. The allied forces of the heaven realm, the human realm and the ancestral realm were constantly being defeated by a group of divine princes and saintesses. Haha, these guys are so weak. Ants from the mortal realm dare to challenge a dragon? How laughable. Those who dare to covet the great creation here must die. The divine princes and saintesses of the primal beginning realm were very disdainful. They didn't care about the people of the human realm, heaven realm and the ancestral realm at all. They saw them as ants and trash. Boom! A divine beast of the primal beginning realm spat out a divine fire, burning a divine prince of a sacred ground in the heaven realm to ashes. Roar! On the other side, a descendant of another divine beast of the primal beginning realm revealed his true form. He opened his mouth and sucked, swallowing 2 descendants of the barren ancient world from the human realm. The descendants of the Black Sparrow race and the Sky-devouring Tiger race are indeed worthy, a divine prince of the grand beginning realm said with a smile. The Black Sparrow race and the Heaven-devouring Tiger race were both divine beast races of the grand beginning realm. These 2 races had produced supreme existences, and their descendants were extremely powerful. They could stand shoulder to shoulder with the successors of the large sects and sacred grounds of the grand beginning realm. As the heirs of the primal beginning realm chased after the heirs of the heaven realm, human realm, and primogenitor realm, a Little Fatty walked over from afar. Haha, I didn't expect it to be livelier here than outside. The Little Fatty walked over with his hands behind his back and a faint smile on his face. His bearing was extraordinary as he looked down on the world. It was as if he did not take these fierce and powerful grand beginning realm experts seriously at all. Who is this guy? The divine sons and saintesses from the Grand Prime world were all surprised when they saw the little fatty. They were all in the depths of the valley, facing off against Yi Lingtian and Jiang Yichen. They had no idea that the little fatty had already killed the sacred prince of the Pingtian divine empire. At this moment, the defeated army of the three worlds fled in panic. Over a dozen experts from the human realm, heaven's realm, and primogenitor realm directly charged past the little fatty. In just a single moment, only Yi Lingtian and Jiang Yichen remained, fighting against Kaihao and the chaotic child. The other divine sons and saintesses could no longer interfere with a battle of this level. In particular, Yi Lingtian and Kaihao's battle was even more earth-shaking. Yi Lingtian, Jiang Yichen, you really are powerful. The little fatty glanced at the battle in the distance, and his eyes flickered with light. A battle of this level was exactly what he desired. It was difficult to find an opponent at his level of cultivation. Although the people before him seemed powerful, the little fatty had no intention of fighting at all. These people did not have the right to be his opponent. "Oi, little fatty, get over here and die," an expert of the Black Sparrow clan said to the little fatty scornfully. "What did you say?" The little fatty turned around and looked at the expert of the Black Sparrow clan. The corner of his lips curled up, revealing a sliver of disdain and arrogance. "I dare you to say that again." The little fatty smiled wickedly. "Haha, who does this guy think he is? The domain lord of the primogenitor realm?" A divine son of the primogenitor realm said disdainfully. The expert of the Black Sparrow clan sneered. "I will say it again. What can you do to me? Damn fatty, get over here and die." "Very well, you have guts. Go to hell then." The little fatty stretched out his right hand and directly grabbed the expert of the Black Sparrow clan. The next moment, the expert of the Black Sparrow clan felt his body tighten, and his entire body flew towards the little fatty. "What?" The expert of the Black Sparrow clan was shocked. Boom! A ball of black flames erupted from the expert of the Black Sparrow clan. The black flames burned the void, causing it to distort and change shape. He wanted to break free from the power that enveloped him. However, the power was extremely powerful. Even though the expert of the Black Sparrow clan attacked with all his might, he still flew towards the little fatty involuntarily. The little fatty grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. The expert of the Black Sparrow clan wanted to struggle, but the next moment, he realized that he couldn't even move a finger. He was directly restrained. "You want me to get over there and die?" The little fatty said with a faint smile. "Do you know who I am? Let me go, or you will die miserably." The expert of the Black Sparrow clan said fiercely, without the slightest awareness of being a prisoner. "Is that so?" The little fatty sneered. The next moment, the power in his hand shot out and directly turned the expert of the Black Sparrow clan into a cloud of blood mist. Even his primordial spirit was directly shattered. What? He actually killed the divine son of the Black Sparrow clan. Does he know how much trouble he has caused? The ancestor of the Black Sparrow clan is probably going to go crazy. The experts of the Grand Prime realm who were watching the show were all dumbfounded. No one thought that the little fatty would actually dare to kill the divine son of the Black Sparrow clan. Moreover, the combat strength that the divine son displayed was too weak. How could he be killed by the damn fatty in one move? What divine son? He's just a piece of trash. The little fatty clapped his hands and said, "Damn fatty, go to hell." The quasi-supreme heaven-devouring tiger of the heaven-devouring tiger clan, a good friend of the Black Sparrow clan, roared angrily. It opened its mouth and inhaled, wanting to swallow the little fatty in one gulp. A heaven-devouring power surged out of the heaven-devouring tiger's mouth. The entire world shook as if it could really swallow the sky in one gulp. The heaven-devouring tiger clan was indeed very powerful. Their innate divine abilities were heaven-defying. In the outside world, the heaven-devouring tiger's breath could probably directly swallow everyone in a city with a population of 10 million. If it was an extreme supreme level heaven-devouring tiger, it could really swallow the sky in one gulp. "You want to eat me?" The little fatty stood with his hands behind his back, allowing the powerful devouring power to envelop him. Although the devouring power was powerful, The little fatty was as steady as a primordial divine mountain. It was difficult to move him. The heaven-devouring tiger's mouth was already crooked, but it still couldn't make the little fatty move. How is this possible? The divine sons and saintesses of the Grand Prime Realm were dumbfounded. This was the divine son of the heaven-devouring tiger clan attacking. This tiger saint had just swallowed an expert of the same level as him. Its ferocity was monstrous. However, the little fatty completely ignored the divine ability of the heaven-devouring tiger saint. The void around the little fatty was twisting and cracking. It was as if it would collapse at any time and be swallowed by the heaven-devouring tiger saint. What is this guy doing? Jiu Ling and Qin Yarrow, who were watching the little fatty's power from afar, were somewhat confused. Given this guy's strength, it was enough to sweep away the so-called divine sons and saintesses of the Grand Prime Realm. Was this guy playing with them? You want to eat me? I'll eat you first. The little fatty also opened his mouth and inhaled. The next moment, an even more powerful devouring power directly suppressed the heaven-devouring tiger. Then, the heaven-devouring tiger flew directly towards him, quickly shrinking, and was swallowed in one gulp. The divine sons and saintesses of the Grand Prime Realm were directly stunned by this scene. This guy actually swallowed the heaven-devouring tiger saint in one gulp. Everyone's forehead was sweating. This little fatty was too terrifying. Haha, you guys still dare to say that there's no one in the heaven realm? A burst of loud laughter came from behind the little fatty. How dare you? The divine sons and saintesses from the Grand Prime Realm were all shocked and angry. Some even became timid and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Only 3 existences more powerful than ordinary divine sons and saintesses emitted endless battle intent. Alright, I'm not playing with you anymore. Come over and accept your death, the little fatty said disapprovingly. Then, he turned around and said to the guys behind him, I'm from the human realm, not the heaven realm. Aha, it's actually our fellow countryman from the human realm. My fellow countryman is mighty. Fellow countryman from the human realm, you have to help us vent our anger. That's right, these beasts from the Grand Prime Realm are too despicable. The morale of the experts from the human realm was immediately boosted, while the experts from the heaven realm were somewhat embarrassed. Hee, so it's a fellow cultivator from the human realm. We're allies on the same side. That's right, the human realm and the heaven realm are originally one family. The experts from the heaven realm smiled apologetically. Hee. The little fatty shook his head and didn't say anything. A divine son from the Grand Prime Realm stared at the little fatty and said coldly, Damn fatty, you're courting death. Do you think you can still live after killing divine son Q and the heaven-devouring tiger saint? Hee, is that so? Those old crows and old heavenly tigers are going to jump out? Then let them come. If one comes, I'll kill one. If 2 come, I'll kill a pair. The little fatty's eyes suddenly became sharp as he glanced at the group of divine sons and saintesses from the Grand Prime Realm. The aura of looking down on the world made the group of divine sons and saintesses almost unable to breathe. This guy, the group of divine sons and saintesses, was shocked again. The little fatty's aura was too powerful. It seemed to be even stronger than Kai Hao and the Son of Chaos. How could a lowly living being from the lower realm be so powerful? Kill. Chapter 4439. In a valley in the Divine Mansion world, there was the primordial chi that cultivators yearned for. It was ancestral chi of heaven and earth. Even extreme supremes would be moved by it. One had to know that such a rare divine item was extremely rare. Obtaining a wisp of it was already a great fortune. But now, in the depths of this inconspicuous valley, there was a divine temple that was worshipping a mass of primordial chi. This was definitely enough to make these quasi-supremes go crazy. The divine sons and saintesses of the primal beginning realm were also itching to kill their way into the divine temple and seize the primordial chi. However, there were 9 stone golems outside the divine temple, blocking the extremely powerful divine sons and saintesses of the primal beginning realm. This was a killing formation. The 9 stone golems were extremely powerful and could easily kill divine sons and saintesses who barged into the formation. Within the range of the stone golem killing formation, there were many corpses lying all over the place. Many cultivators who had entered the divine mansion world had died here. Among these corpses, there was a black flood dragon that was thousands of feet long. Even though it was dead, it was still extremely ferocious. This black flood dragon was the black flood dragon that had entered the divine mansion before. This black flood dragon came from the ancestral realm and was extremely powerful, but it had actually died here. Apart from this black flood dragon, there were 7 or 8 quasi-supremes that had died outside the divine temple. A white-haired old man had fallen on the steps in front of the divine temple. This old quasi-supreme had almost passed through the stone golem killing array, but he still fell on the steps in the end. He was only a few steps away from passing through the killing array, entering the divine temple, and obtaining the primordial chi. However, reality was cruel. He was only a few steps away, but the result was heaven and hell. If this old quasi-supreme could pass through the killing array, he would definitely reach the heavens in one step. Unfortunately, this old quasi-supreme had no IFS. At this time, outside the stone golem killing array, murderous intent soared into the sky. A little fatty directly charged into a group of divine sons and saintesses of the primal beginning realm. He raised his hand and blasted a divine son into a bloody mist. Even someone as powerful as the divine son of the primal beginning realm was killed by the little fatty with a raise of his hand. "Quick, spread out!" a divine son roared. However, the little fatty laughed and put his palms together. In the next moment, his palms parted and countless palm shadows shot out in all directions. Bam! 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 Muffled collisions were heard continuously. The divine princes and saintesses who were hit by the palm shadows were directly turned into clouds of blood mist. Even their essence souls were shattered. This was an indiscriminate attack. Everyone was extremely shocked. Little Fatty's attack had killed more than a dozen divine sons and saintesses of the primal beginning realm. The sky full of palm shadows dissipated. Only 3 especially powerful existences were able to block the Little Fatty's attack. The others were all dead, and completely dead. Hee. What divine son and saintess? They're all trash that can't even take a single blow. To think that they would dare to strut around here. What a joke. Little Fatty said in disdain. The 2 divine sons and the saintess were both shocked and furious. They had survived the Little Fatty's move, but the corners of their mouths were bleeding and their hair was in a mess. They were in an extremely sorry state. This guy's combat strength was too shocking. He was even more powerful than Kai Hao and Hun Hun Zi. One had to know that even if Kai Hao and Chaos Child were to go all out, they wouldn't be able to kill more than 10 God's sons and saintess in one move. In the eyes of the 2 God's sons and saintess, the combat power that Little Fatty had displayed was simply heaven-defying. Useless chickens and pottery dogs, I'll just casually wipe them out. The Little Fatty was extremely domineering, directly taking action. A huge hand appeared in the void, grabbing at the 2 gods and a saintess. "Tai Yu Saint, if you don't use your trump card now, when will you?" one of the divine princes exclaimed. The other divine son sneered. At the next moment, he crushed the talismans in his hand, and a beam of divine light rushed out of his hand. The beam of light instantly turned into a heavenly saber, directly splitting the Little Fatty's hand in half. The shocking saber light broke through the Little Fatty's hand easily. It made a turn in the void and directly slashed at the Little Fatty at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! Where the saber light passed, the Little Fatty's body was split in half. "Did you kill him?" The Tai Yu Saint was surprised and overjoyed. The other god's son and saintess were also overjoyed. However, the next moment, their expressions froze. The figure that was split in half by the heavenly saber actually disappeared in the void. There was no blood at all. "Haha, disappointed." A voice that sounded as terrifying as hell to the Tai Yu Saint and the others was suddenly heard from behind them. They were so shocked that they almost fell from the sky. The Tai Yu Saint and the others turned around and saw the evil Little Fatty with his arms crossed, looking at them with a smug and mocking expression. Again, the Tai Yu Saint pointed at the Little Fatty with his right hand. The saber light that had yet to dissipate immediately changed direction in the void and slashed at the Little Fatty again. I'll return it to you. The little fatty stretched out his right hand, and the chaotic energy immediately rushed out of his hand. The space in front of him immediately distorted. The moment the saber light slashed into the distorted void in front of the little fatty, it immediately turned around and slashed at the Taiyu saint. What? The Taiyu saint was shocked. This guy could actually reverse his attack. Wouldn't he be invincible if he had mastered such a divine ability? How is this possible? The other god's son and saintess were dumbfounded at the scene. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Roar. The Taiyu saint roared without hesitation and dodged with all his might. However, the saber light was too fast. In a flash, blood appeared and one of his arms fell off. Old ancestor, save me. The Taiyu saint roared and a jade talisman on his chest suddenly exploded. A shadow immediately appeared in the void and a terrifying pressure exploded from the figure. A wave of energy that was infinitely close to the extreme Tao spread out from the figure. It was a black-robed old man. He was tall and mighty and his angry glare was enough to frighten one's soul. The little fatty is going to be in trouble. Jiyu Ling frowned when he saw this scene from afar. These guys from the primordial world really had many life-saving methods. They even had an incarnation that was almost at the extreme Tao level. Only an extreme Tao Supreme could have such a powerful incarnation. It should be known that the combat power of an incarnation could not be stronger than the original body. The combat power of an extreme Tao Supreme's incarnation could only be infinitely close to that of an extreme Tao Supreme. An incarnation of an extreme Tao Supreme could not possibly be an extreme Tao Supreme as well. Little guy, how dare you injure our god's son? How dare you? As soon as the old man appeared, the entire void seemed to freeze. Endless law power spread out from his body and enveloped the entire place. The little fatty also became nervous. He could feel a dangerous aura from the incarnation. Ancestor, kill him. The Taiyu saint roared. At this moment, half of his body was dyed red with blood. One of his arms had been cut off by the sky blade and he could not reattach it. This made him hate the little fatty to the core. Then kill him. The incarnation said as he directly attacked the little fatty with a palm. Rumble, the entire world shook. The incarnation's attack had shaken the world. What? The little fatty was finally moved. He wanted to dodge, but in the next moment, he realized that he could not even move a finger. He had been imprisoned by a powerful force. He could only watch as the other party's huge palm slammed down on his head. How dare you? You're bullying the weak. The little fatty shouted in his heart. He could not even speak now. Roar. The little fatty desperately used his mystic art. A layer of divine light immediately surged from his body. In the next moment, he could move again. Boom. At the same time, the huge hand came crashing down, slapping little fatty down from the sky and into the ground. This, the Taiyu saint and the others were surprised and overjoyed. This guy is still not dead. The Taiyu saint and the others were extremely pleased. The gods' sons and saintesses of large sects and sacred grounds all had some trump cards. Of course, they would not use these trump cards unless they had no other choice. Jiyu Xiaofeng, Jiyu Ling's heart skipped a beat. In the next moment, she disappeared into the void. When she reappeared, she was already in the valley and near the sacred hall. Roar. A deep roar came from the ground. Then, the ground exploded and dust rose into the sky. A figure rushed out from the ground and a powerful aura exploded from the figure. The little fatty was not killed by the incarnation's palm. Old man, you think you can kill me with just a mere incarnation? What a joke. The little fatty said as he patted the dust off his body. Sister, you. At this time, Qin Yarrow came to Jiyu Ling's side. Uncle Master. As soon as the little fatty saw Jiyu Ling, he immediately ran over, tidied up his clothes, and gave Jiyu Ling a formal bow. The Taiyu saint and the others were shocked to see the insufferably arrogant little fatty bowing to a masked woman. This woman was the damn fatty's Uncle Master. If the Uncle Master was already so powerful, wouldn't this Uncle Master be even more powerful? Where's your father? Jiyu Ling asked. Father didn't come. He went to see the Grandmaster. Jiyu Xiaofeng said carefully. Oh, then continue. Ji Ling glanced at the incarnation and said, "Uncle Master, I want to borrow something from you," Ji Xiaofeng said. "What is it?" Ji Ling was curious. "Nothing much, just your Emperor's divine gem." Ji Xiaofeng smiled. Chapter 4440. Ji Xiaofeng wasn't as honest as his father. He'd been full of tricks since he was young, and his personality was somewhat similar to that of the old turtle, the demon lord of the heaven realm. He didn't want to reveal his true strength too early, because it was his trump card. Therefore, he naturally thought of the human emperor divine weapon that Uncle Master Ji Ling possessed. The human emperor divine mace was a protective Dao tool that Ji Fei had given to Ji Ling. In Ji Ling's hands, this human emperor divine weapon could unleash an attack of the supreme emperor level. There didn't seem to be any power of heavenly punishment in this world of the immortal mansion. This was definitely a great thing for the supreme emperor level cultivators. However, using the power of the supreme emperor here could very well destroy the world of the immortal mansion. No one knew the ins and outs of this world of the immortal mansion, so they wouldn't act rashly. It should be known that these supreme existences who stood at the peak of the myriad realms were all extremely shrewd. "You deserve to die." The Taiyu divine child was both shocked and angry. These guys dared to ignore him. That's right. These pieces of trash shouldn't live in this world. The old man looked coldly at Ji Xiaofeng and Ji Ling. In his eyes, creatures from the lower realm, no matter how strong they were just ants. "Haha, is that so? Then let me, an ant, have a taste of what you so-called big shots have to offer." Ji Xiaofeng gripped the Emperor Divine Mace and stepped forward in the void. A powerful aura erupted from his body, causing the void around him to distort. "Little guy, you really don't know what's good for you." As the old man spoke, he pointed with his finger and a beam of divine light shot out from his fingertip, piercing through Ji Xiaofeng. Ji Xiaofeng sneered and waved the Emperor Divine Mace in his hand to disperse the divine light. Then, he swung the mace at the old man. What he couldn't stand the most were these people who thought they were high and mighty. He didn't use any magic or battle techniques, but Ji Xiaofeng's attack caused the surrounding void to crack. The old man seemed a little surprised. He then threw a punch at the Emperor Divine Mace. In the next moment, the old man was sent flying, and his entire right arm exploded into a bloody mist that dissipated in the air. What? The Taiyu Divine Son, the other Divine Son, and the Saintess were shocked when they saw this. The Taiyu Divine Son's patriarch was an incarnation that was infinitely close to the extreme grade. How could his arm be destroyed by this damn fatty? Whoosh! Ji Xiaofeng took a step forward, and in the blink of an eye, he had caught up, and swung his truncheon again. The old man was shocked. Bam! The old man's entire body exploded from Ji Xiaofeng's attack. How is this possible? Taiyu Divine Child was stunned by the scene in front of him. His ancestor's incarnation was destroyed by this fatty. That was his trump card. Run! The other Divine Prince and the Saintess immediately turned around and rushed out of the valley. "Do you think you can escape?" At that moment, a figure with dazzling golden light came from afar. 2 golden divine wings spread out from the person's back. The man flapped his wings and beams of golden light turned into shocking sword rainbows, slashing at the Divine Prince and the Saintess in an overwhelming manner. All the metal elemental power in the world seemed to be attracted by the figure, and the sharp metal chi filled every inch of the void. Infinite heavenly fire. The Divine Prince was both shocked and furious. He let out a roar, and a ball of divine fire immediately burst out of his body, burning the void to the point where it was annihilated. The peerless swordlight that came slashing down one after another was blocked. The void around the Divine Sun formed a powerful domain. The golden sword lights were shattered when they hit the domain, turning into countless beams of golden light that dissipated in the void. At the same time, the Saintess opened an umbrella of chaos. The sword lights that were slashing at him were blocked by a ball of chaotic divine light that exploded from the umbrella of chaos. The chaotic aura was vast and mighty. The divine sons and saintesses from the primal beginning realm were quite capable. It should be pointed out that only fierce dragons dared to cross the river. Since they dared to enter the divine mansion world, they had to have something to rely on. The newcomer sneered. He grabbed at the void with his right hand, and a golden spear immediately appeared in his hand. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, the cultivator took a step forward and appeared in front of the divine sun in an instant. The next moment, the spear in his hand had already pierced into the divine sun's domain. The spearhead pierced through the divine sun's chest and lifted him up. Roar! The divine sun roared ferociously, grabbing the spear tightly with both hands. Die! The man's hand that was holding the spear shook. Bam! The divine sun was directly turned into a bloody mist by the power that erupted from the spear. His body and soul were both destroyed. The saintess next to him was scared out of her wits. She immediately used the chaotic umbrella to protect herself, broke through the void, and went far away in an instant. Just at this moment, a gigantic hand grabbed out at that holy girl. With a single grab, the holy girl was crushed into pieces. Even the primal chaos umbrella was shattered into pieces. At that moment, only the divine sons and saintesses from the primal beginning realm, the Taiyu divine son, the chaotic child, and the heaven equal sect's divine son, Kai Hao, were still alive. On the other side of the valley, the chaotic child and Jiangachen were engaged in a fierce battle. The battle was extremely fierce and terrifying. The shockwaves spread out, causing the surrounding void to crack continuously. The two cultivators were covered in blood, especially the chaotic child. There was a bloody hole in his chest that was still losing blood. There were even a few scratches on his shoulder that revealed his bones. Jiangachen was also injured. However, his injuries were much lighter than Han Zhen's. You're only SOSO. How dare you ignore everything and treat us like ants? What a joke, Jiangachen said disdainfully as he attacked. The chaotic child was shocked and angry. He had never imagined that the living beings of this backward world would be so powerful. This was completely beyond his expectations. What? If this is all you've got, I'll send you on your way. The corners of Jiangachen's mouth curled up into a disdainful smile. You! Chaos child sneered. His body shook and a violent force erupted from his body. Chaotic chi filled the air and enveloped a part of the void. The chaotic chi quickly condensed and a large chaotic hand appeared in the void. It slapped at Jiangachen. Boom! Boom! The large chaotic hand shook the heavens and the earth and enveloped Jiangachen. Heavenly eye, open! Jiangachen roared. In the next moment, a dazzling divine light shot out from between his eyebrows. With a flash of divine light, the huge chaotic hand that was grabbing down from the sky was split in half. After the divine light broke the large chaotic hand, it continued to pierce through the chaotic child. The chaotic child abruptly retreated. At that moment, in another place, Yi Lingtian and Kai Hao were fighting to the point where the void collapsed. The sun and moon lost their light and the entire valley was shaking. Only the area covered by the stone golem killing formation was unaffected by any power. The 9 stone golems stood quietly in the killing formation, motionless. However, once someone broke into the range of the killing formation, the 9 stone golems would attack immediately and kill the intruder. Within the killing formation, blood mist filled the air and corpses littered the ground. It was definitely not an easy task to obtain the Hongmeng Qi in the temple within the killing formation. Of course, the Hongmeng Qi was extremely precious and it was worth risking one's life for. However, everyone only had one life. If they died, everything would be over. However, once they obtained the Hongmeng Qi, they would soar into the sky and have the opportunity to break through to the extreme grade. The extreme grade supremacy was an existence that stood at the peak of the universe. Boom! Yi Lingtian's divine sun fist crushed the void. Every punch created a huge hole in the void. It was extremely powerful. Even Kai Hao did not dare to take a punch from him head-on. Kai Hao was also impressive. He moved quickly like a phantom, searching for Yi Lingtian's flaws. However, the divine sun fist was a perfect battle skill without any flaws. It was not difficult to break through this battle skill as long as Kai Hao had overwhelming power. Using fist to break fist and force to break force was the simplest and most direct method. However, it was a pity that Kai Hao did not have the so-called overwhelming power before Yi Lingtian. Therefore, If he did not use his trump card, Kai Hao could not defeat Yi Lingtian at all. Good, very good. Lowly lower realm creature, you should be proud that you forced me to use my trump card, Kai Hao said through gritted teeth as he attacked. Haha, show me what you've got. Yi Lingtian laughed. Although the guy from the primordial realm was strong, he was still weaker than Yi Lingtian. Yi Lingtian was very curious about his trump card. Just as Yi Lingtian forced Kai Hao to use his trump card, Taiyu Divine Child met a tragic end. Jiyu Xiaofeng's divine mace smashed his head. Taiyu Divine Child's body spun twice on the spot before he fell to the ground and fainted. Hee. Jiyu Xiaofeng walked forward and robbed Taiyu Divine Child. Then, he grabbed him and threw him into the Stoneman killing formation. Don't. Save me. Taiyu Divine Child, who had fallen into the Stoneman killing array, immediately woke up. When he looked around, his face turned pale. He had personally witnessed many experts who were not much weaker than him being killed by the 9 stonemen in the killing array. Taiyu Divine Child hurriedly got up from the ground and rushed out of the formation. However, a stone golem had already appeared in front of him, blocking his way. Heavy footsteps came from all directions. Needless to say, the other stonemen were coming to surround him. Get out of my way. Chapter 44-41. The Taiyu Divine Child was the current divine child of the Taiyu Sacred Ground. He was the number 1 of the younger generation in the Taiyu Sacred Ground. He had only cultivated for 1,000 years, but he was already a peak quasi-supreme. Although his cultivation speed was not unprecedented in the Taiyu Sacred Ground, it was still shocking. Of course, this had to do with the fact that the Taiyu Sacred Ground was one of the best cultivation sacred grounds in the Taiyu Sacred Ground. The cultivation resources in the Taiyu Sacred Ground were terrifying. As the divine child of the Taiyu Sacred Ground, he naturally had the full support of the Taiyu Sacred Ground. Even he had an avatar of one of the patriarchs of the Taiyu Sacred Ground. The talisman used to store avatars was not easy to refine. The patriarch of the Taiyu Sacred Ground had used his avatar to protect the divine child. From this, one could see how important the divine child was in the Taiyu Sacred Ground. If the divine child of the Taiyu Sacred Ground died in the immortal abode, it would definitely cause a great disturbance. But so what? Jiyu Xiaofeng didn't care about all of this at all. If he wanted to kill, then he would kill, and he would do as he pleased. If he was entangled by all sorts of complicated matters and was afraid of the consequences, then he was bound to be unable to become a supreme expert, and it was impossible for him to stand at the peak of the myriad of worlds in the universe. Jiyu Xiaofeng directly threw Taiyu Godchild into the killing array outside the temple. The divine child of the Taiyu Sacred Ground no longer had the arrogance of a divine child of one of the best cultivation sacred grounds in the Taiyu Sacred Ground. One had to know that this killing formation had killed quite a few quasi-supreme being existences. Even Chaotic Child and Divine Child Kai Hao did not dare to barge into this killing array. The cultivation of Chaotic Child and Divine Child Kai Hao was above the Divine Child of the Taiyu Sacred Ground. The Chaotic Battle God Palace and the Heaven Equal Sect were no weaker than the Taiyu Sacred Ground. One had to know that the Heaven Equal Sect was known as the Heaven Equal Sect. The Heaven Equal Sect was stronger than the Taiyu Sacred Ground. Kai Hao's cultivation and combat power were much stronger than the Taiyu Sacred Ground. Quasi-Supremes were also divided into different levels. Even among peak Quasi-Supremes, there were strong and weak ones. Divine powers, cultivation methods, physique, battle skills, and so on were enough to determine a person's strength. A peak Quasi-Supremes who cultivated a superior cultivation method were definitely stronger than a peak Quasi-Supremes who cultivated a medium cultivation method. In any world, in any heaven and earth, the weak were just ants. Only the strong could obtain everything and control everything. Now, Taiyu Godchild's intestines were green with regret. He shouldn't have come here to fight for the great fortune of the immortal abode. He shouldn't have looked down on these ants from the lower world. However, it was too late now. Boom! A stone man strode over and threw a punch at Taiyu Divine Child, sending him flying. He coughed up blood continuously. Bam! Another golem rushed forward and kicked Taiyu Divine Child into the sky like a ball. Who? A stone man soared into the sky and caught up with Tai Yu Divine Child in an instant. Then, he stomped on the ground. Bam! Tai Yu Divine Child was stomped down from the sky by the stone golem. He fell from the sky like a meteor to the ground. I can't accept it. Tai Yu Godchild's body was nearly smashed by the attacks. Even with his protective Tao treasure, he could not block the attacks. The stone men were just too strong. Tai Yu Godchild was shocked. The shrine's protective killing array was definitely at the Supreme Being level. Be it the stone golem or the array, only an extreme-grade Supreme Being could use such a method. After all, the 9 stone giants within the killing formation were all refined from chaotic calamity lightning rock, and every single one of them was an existence akin to a peerless ancestor of lightning. Every single move they made carried vast destructive energy that seemed capable of destroying everything. Tai Yu Divine Child did not want to die. However, it was no longer up to him to decide. Boom! Before he could land on the ground, another stone golem rushed over and punched Tai Yu Divine Child's body. The violent power of the thunder tribulation exploded and dazzling lightning tore through the void. Several balls of divine light emerged from the Tai Yu Divine Child's body. The last few protective Tao treasures shattered. In the next moment, his entire body exploded and turned into a bloody mist. Dead. Jiyu Xiaofeng chuckled at the sight. Is he really dead? Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow were puzzled. Given Tai Yu Divine Child's cultivation, he could not even last a dozen breaths in the killing formation. The mist of blood dissipated and Tai Yu Divine Child disappeared completely. However, just when Jiyu Xiaofeng thought that Tai Yu Divine Child was dead for sure, a figure appeared in the void without any warning. Rumble! The power of the killing formation was released. Dazzling chaotic lightning began to appear on the 9 stone men. It was as if the 9 great chaotic supreme beings were awakening. Death Substitution Talisman? Jiyu Xiaofeng stared at Tai Yu Divine Child in the middle of the formation. His eyes narrowed. He knew very well how precious such talismans were. They could be used as a substitute for death. It was equivalent to having an extra life. Such talismans were rare even in the heaven realm and human realm. However, they could be found in the ancestral realm. The materials needed to refine such talismans were hard to come by. Even if they were found, only an extreme supreme being could successfully refine them. Even Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow were surprised that Tai Yu Divine Child had a death substitution talisman with him. The 9 stone men charged at Tai Yu Divine Child. Damn it! Tai Yu Divine Child rushed out of the killing array. The 9 stone golems were too terrifying. Once he was surrounded by them, he would definitely die. However, the strength of the 9 stone men far exceeded his imagination. A single punch turned Tai Yu Divine Child into a mist of blood again. In the next moment, Tai Yu Divine Child appeared at the edge of the killing formation. He used the death substitution talisman again. If he hadn't used the death substitution talisman, he would have been obliterated by the stone golem long ago. Just as Tai Yu Divine Child was about to rush out of the killing formation, a mace smashed into his head and sent him flying back. Tai Yu Divine Child was enraged. He was so close to escaping but was sent flying back. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Fart! Before the Tai Yu Divine Child could react, a fist pierced through his chest. This Tai Yu Divine Child looked at the fist that pierced through his chest in shock. Bam! Tai Yu Divine Child shrieked in pain as his entire body shattered. Still not dead yet. Jiyu Xiaofeng said proudly. Not necessarily. Jiyu Ling shook his head. As expected, Tai Yu Divine Child reappeared in the distance. Whoosh! This time, he directly crushed a special talisman, and a ball of divine light instantly enveloped him. Bam! A stone man rushed over and punched the ball of divine light on Tai Yu Divine Child's body. How dare you force me to use this talisman? Tai Yu Divine Child felt his heart ache. The stone man's punch was powerful enough to destroy an ancient divine mountain. However, he didn't move an inch when it came into contact with the ball of divine light around Tai Yu Divine Child. Jiyu Ling's eyes lit up when he saw this. Extreme Tao protection? Qin Yarrow exclaimed. This Tai Yu divine child had such a treasure with him. The extreme Tao protection was also a type of talisman. However, it was much harder to make than the death substitution talisman because it was the power of the extreme Tao. Even an ordinary extreme supremacy would not be able to seal the power of the extreme Tao in a talisman. Only supremacy above the intermediate level of the extreme Tao could use such a technique. There must be more than one extreme supremacy behind this fella's back. But so what? Jiyu Ling and Qin Yarrow didn't think much of it. Whoosh! Tai Yu divine child charged out of the killing formation. Boom! Bam! One stone man after another attacked him. In an instant, he was punched 13 times and kicked 11 times. If he was an ordinary person, he would have died many times over. However, the 13 punches and 11 kicks still couldn't move the ball of divine light around Tai Yu divine child. The killing formation's power continued to increase. When Jiyu Ling saw this, she could not help but be moved. This killing formation was very powerful. Even if she made a move, she would only have a 30 to 40% chance of passing through it. Tai Yu divine child had already charged out of the killing formation. Damned fatty, you deserve to die. Tai Yu divine child was enraged. He had used all his trump cards and the one who caused this was the fatty in front of him. My death substitution talisman and the extreme Tao protection talisman. Tai Yu divine child's heart was bleeding. He had used all his trump cards. Even if he returned to the Tai Yu sacred ground, he would still be punished by his master. Die. Jiyu Xiaofeng didn't want to waste time with this fella. He charged at Tai Yu divine child and smashed the divine light of Tai Yu divine child with the emperor's divine mace. Buzz. The divine light of Tai Yu divine child shook violently. In the next moment, Jiyu Xiaofeng felt a powerful force coming from the emperor's divine mace. After that, he was blasted away, and the mortal emperor divine mace in his hand was almost knocked out of his grasp. Blood seeped out of Jiyu Xiaofeng's hand that was holding the emperor's divine mace. Humph! Jiyu Xiaofeng glared at Tai Yu divine child. The extreme Tao protection talisman cannot be broken. Qin Yarrow shook her head. This power had already surpassed the power of the extreme Tao. No one could break the extreme Tao protection talisman unless they were an extreme supreme. The immortal mansion world was a different world. There was no power of heavenly punishment here. Haha, you want to kill me? Damned fatty, do you have what it takes? Tai Yu divine child laughed maniacally. This, Jiyu Xiaofeng was both shocked and angry. He didn't expect Tai Yu divine child to have such a move. The extreme Tao protection talisman was made by an extreme supreme. A quasi-supreme would never be able to break it unless Jiyu Xiaofeng could awaken the emperor's divine mace. However, it was impossible for him to awaken the emperor's divine mace. Clang! Suddenly, a sword chime was heard. In the next moment, a sword light flashed past. Tai Yu divine child's laughter suddenly stopped. The layer of divine light around him was split in half and a line of blood appeared on his forehead. He can't kill you, but that doesn't mean I can't. Jiyu Ling said indifferently. I can't accept this. Tai Yu divine child's divine will dissipated in the void. In the next moment, his body was split in half and fell to the ground. Breaking the extreme Tao with one sword? Chapter 44-42. Jiyu Ling's slash directly broke through the divine child's protective power and split him in half. Even his Yuan Shen was annihilated by the slash before it could escape. The experts watching the battle from afar were shocked. They did not even see how Jiyu Ling had attacked. Jiyu Ling's attack was too fast. It was so fast that even the Tai Yu divine child had died before he could react. Uncle Master, Jiyu Xiaofeng was dumbfounded. He knew very well how powerful the Tai Yu divine child's extreme defense was. Not even the emperor's divine mace could break through it. However, Jiyu Ling had destroyed such a powerful defense with a single attack. The power of Jiyu Ling's attack was too terrifying. Junior sister, Qin Yarrow looked at Jiyu Ling in shock. She could not help but be moved. Jiyu Ling's attack was too shocking. Even she would not be able to dodge it. Of course, as the princess of the Qin clan, Qin Yao's life-saving techniques were much stronger than the Taiyu divine child's. It would not be easy for Jiyu Ling to defeat her. The battle between Jiangechen and the chaotic child had reached its final stage. Rumble, endless chaotic energy erupted from the chaotic child's body. Every strand of chaotic energy was heavier than a mountain and could destroy everything. This was the power of chaos. The chaotic child of the chaotic god of war palace possessed the chaotic daoist body and was naturally close to the power of chaos. With a wave of his hand, streaks of chaotic lightning shot towards Jiangechen. The chaotic lightning tore through the void. Jiangechen snorted coldly. He immediately opened up a space and blocked all the chaotic lightning outside of this space. Whoosh! At the same time, a beam of divine light shot out from between Jiangechen's eyebrows and pierced through the chaotic child. The speed of this divine light was extremely fast. It directly broke through the layers of chaotic aura and pierced through the body of the Son of Chaos, bringing out a cloud of blood mist. That was chaotic blood. Every drop was filled with chaotic energy. Roar! The chaotic child roared and retreated. However, Jiangechen chased after him like a shadow. I will send you on your way. Jiangechen put his hands together and slashed at the Son of Chaos. Dazzling saber light burst from his hands, as if he was going to split heaven and earth in half. Kill! Chaos child roared madly and attacked immediately. Chaotic energy erupted from his body, and a huge shadow rushed out of his body to meet the saber light that was slashing down. However, the saber light was unstoppable. It directly split the figure that had rushed out of Chaos Child's body in half, and it dissipated into the void. What? The Chaos Child was extremely shocked. This fellow was still holding back his strength. Without thinking, he dodged to the side. However, this saber light was extremely fast. In a flash, blood appeared, and the left half of Chaos Child's body was chopped off. This saber strike was incredibly powerful and contained terrifying power. The saber chi directly invaded the Chaos Child's body, destroying his life force. In an instant, Chaos Child seemed to have aged a few hundred years. He looked extremely exhausted, and the aura on his body became very weak. Jiangechen's saber strike almost caused Chaos Child to fall from the quasi-supreme level to the Holy Venerate level. What kind of saber is this? Chaos Child's hair turned white, and he looked a little old. His chi and blood were declining, as if he was getting old. This saber is called time. Jiangechen said calmly. What a saber of time. Chaos Child's expression was extremely solemn. He did not expect Jiangechen to have mastered such a supreme power. He had cut off his own time with a saber strike. However, in the next moment, Chaos Child's chi and blood became vigorous again. His white hair instantly turned black, and his eyes shone with a dazzling divine light. Chaos Child's entire body became stronger again. The chi and blood in his body were vast, and rumbling sounds of thunder could be heard. The aura that erupted from his body seemed to be even stronger than before. Jiangechen was shocked. What was wrong with this fellow? How could he recover so quickly after being struck by his saber of time? In fact, what Jiangechen did not know was that Chaos Child had just secretly integrated an item from his inner world into his body without anyone noticing. Even a guy like the Taiyu Divine Son had 3 death substitution talismans and 1 extreme Dao protection talisman. The chaotic god of war palace, where Chaos Child was from, was even more powerful than the Taiyu sacred ground. The Chaos Child also had many trump cards. The divine sons and saintesses of the primordial world would not dare to come out if they did not have trump card. Since he dared to come out, he must have a few trump cards to protect himself. You wasted one of my origin of chaos. Even if you die 10 times, it won't be enough. Chaos Child glared at Jiangechen and gritted his teeth. I did not expect you to have such a treasure. Jiangechen smiled faintly. He was the Jiang family's little supreme martial artist. There was a genuine human emperor patriarch in the family. Although the origin of chaos was a good thing, he had seen it before. Kill. Chaos Child's battle strength soared after integrating the origin of chaos into his body. He took a step forward and directly punched at Jiangechen. Rumble. Chaos Child's punch caused the entire world to shake. The punch shook the void, causing pitch-black spatial cracks to appear in the void. That's more like it. Jiang Gichen smiled. He used his fingernail to cut his right middle finger, and a drop of blood flew out. I'll let you see the real cut of time, Jiang Gichen said as he waved his right hand. The drop of blood immediately bloomed with endless bloodlight, and the whole world was illuminated with blood-red light. Blood-dripping divine blade, cut time with one cut. Jiang Gichen used a drop of true blood to transform into a blood-red divine blade. The blade cut through the mighty and terrifying chaotic fist force and immediately cut into the Chaos Child's body. Roar. Chaos Child immediately roared when the blood blade entered his body. The next moment, under the horrified eyes of the mysterious experts watching the battle, his hair turned snow-white, and his entire body aged rapidly. His skin became wrinkled, and his teeth fell out. He looked as if he had aged hundreds of thousands of years and was about to die of old age. How is this possible? Chaos Child's voice also became extremely old. Boom. The void collapsed, and Chaos Child's inner world exploded. Countless divine objects flew out. He was so weak that he could no longer control his inner world. His entire body was blown into pieces, and half of his body had disappeared. Jiang Gichen did not stand on ceremony. He immediately kept all the treasures that flew out of Chaos Child's inner world into his own inner world. Chaos Child's inner world was extremely rich, and ordinary quasi-supremes would be jealous. However, no one dared to compete with Jiang Gichen for Chaos Child's things. Time to go. Jiang Gichen took a step forward and instantly arrived above Chaos Child. He then stomped his foot down. Bam! Chaos Child did not even have time to scream before he was crushed by Jiang Gichen's stomp. Even his primordial spirit was shattered, and he was dead. After killing the Son of Chaos and destroying his inner world, Jiang Gichen had reaped a great harvest. However, an extreme Dao weapon had flown out of the void. Jiang Gichen was very surprised that there was a supreme Dao weapon in Chaos Child's inner world. However, he knew that it was not that easy to subdue an supreme Dao weapon. Outside the valley, someone tried to stop the supreme Dao treasure. However, in the next moment, the divine light formed by the supreme Dao treasure rushed over and directly blasted that person into a cloud of blood mist. He died instantly and his Dao vanished. The supreme Dao weapon transformed into a divine light and shot out of the immortal mansion world. Just as it was about to rush out of the immortal mansion world, a huge hand reached out from the immortal mansion world and grabbed the supreme Dao weapon. Who dares touch my Dao weapon? An old voice suddenly rang out from the extreme Dao treasure. A cold laugh came from the depths of the immortal mansion world. In the next moment, the large hand that grabbed the supreme Dao weapon exerted force and directly obliterated the brand within the supreme Dao weapon. The supreme Dao weapon was then dragged into the depths of the immortal mansion world. Roar. Just as the mysterious expert grabbed the supreme Dao weapon of Chaos Child, an angry roar came from a temple in the depths of the primal beginning realm that was shrouded in primal chaos chi. The entire primal chaos zone shook because of this angry roar. What's going on? Why is Supreme Elder Kang Mie so angry? In the primal chaos zone, countless disciples of the chaotic war deity palace were extremely shocked. Even some of the older experts of the chaotic war deity palace who were in seclusion walked out and looked at the temple. Swoosh! A terrifying figure dashed out of the divine hall and disappeared in an instant. What's going on? Just as Supreme Elder Kang Mie left, an old man in primal chaos divine robes walked out from the depths of the primal chaos zone. This old man looked in the direction where Kang Mie had disappeared. In his eyes, the sun, moon, and stars were descending. It was a shocking sight. At this time, in the valley of the immortal mansion world, Jiang Gichen did not know that he had killed the Son of Chaos and provoked a terrifying existence. After killing the Son of Chaos, he opened the eye of heaven between his eyebrows and scanned the killing formation in front of him. He wanted to find a way to break this killing formation. A flawless killing formation? Jiang Gichen was shocked. Under his eye of heaven, the entire killing formation appeared in his mind. Countless densely packed formation patterns formed the killing formation and filled the void in front of him. He could not find any flaws. A killing formation without flaws was a flawless killing formation. Only when one cultivated the great path to the great perfection realm, which was the extreme grade realm, could one set up a flawless killing formation. A flawless formation? Jiyu Ling walked over. Greetings, brother Jiyu. Jiang Chen hurriedly clasped his hands at Jiyu Ling. Jiyu Ling was Jiyu Fei's daughter. He did not dare to slight her. It should be known that Jiyu Fei was friends with the patriarch of the Renhuang family. Jiyu Fei had a good relationship with the Jiang family, especially with Jiang Renhuang. To Jiyu Fei, Jiang Renhuang was both a teacher and a friend. There is no unbreakable formation in this world. Jiyu Ling looked at the killing formation of the stone men and said calmly. Chapter 44-43. Jiang Chen killed the chaotic child of the chaotic god of war palace. At this time, only Jiyu Ling, Qin Yarrow, Jiyu Xiaofeng, and Jiang Chen were left in the depths of the valley. On the other side, Yi Lingtian and Kai Hao were engaged in a fierce battle. Yi Lingtian was from the ancestral realm's Yi clan. The Yi clan was definitely one of the top forces in the primordial realm. The patriarch of the Yi clan was a supreme existence who had walked a different path to eternity. As the heir of the ancestral realm's Yi clan, Yi Lingtian had the best cultivation resources. He was only half a step away from becoming an extreme grade supreme. However, he was stuck at the peak of the quasi-supreme realm and could not take that half a step. That was why he decided to travel the universe in search of an opportunity to break through to the extreme grade supreme. Otherwise, as one of the heirs of the Yi clan, he would not have appeared in the heaven realm. An ant will always be an ant. You want to become a dragon? Dream on. Qi Hao, the heaven equal sect's divine child, was arrogant and looked down on everything. As he waved his hands, 10 rays of divine light turned into sword rainbows and slashed at Yi Lingtian. Each ray of sword light easily cut through the void as if it could destroy everything. Haha, I am a dragon. I don't need to become one. But you, who knows where you came from? How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? You're courting death. Yi Lingtian said coldly. He clasped his hands together and yin-yang qi circulated between his hands. A Tai Chi yin-yang diagram immediately appeared in front of him. Buzz. The yin-yang Dao diagram shook and unexpectedly swallowed up the 10 sword lights that slashed towards it. Yin-yang Dao? Kai Hao was shocked. He did not expect this guy to cultivate the yin-yang Dao. It was one of the most difficult Dao to cultivate. Even in the heaven realm, only the yin-yang Great Emperor could cultivate the yin-yang Great Dao to the extreme. The yin-yang Emperor was the ancestor of the Qin clan. Qin Yarrow also cultivated the yin-yang Dao. She had the bloodline of her father, the yin-yang Emperor, and was naturally close to the yin-yang Dao. This made her cultivation speed much faster than ordinary people. However, the supreme bloodline of the yin-yang Emperor had become a huge obstacle for her to become an extreme supremacy. In fact, the descendants of extreme supremes faced the same problem. Whether it was Qin Yarrow, Old Tortoise, or even Yi Lingtian, it was much more difficult for them to become supremes compared to other quasi-supremes. However, once they succeeded, they would definitely become kings among supreme beings, almost unmatched in the same level. Of course, the problem was that Old Tortoise and the others had to succeed. If they didn't succeed, they would forever be stuck in the quasi-supreme being realm. It would be difficult for their cultivation to advance any further, and they might even face the danger of dying. The great Tao of Yin and Yang is nothing special. How can it compare to my limitless great Tao? Kai Hao said disdainfully. He extended his right hand and a ball of divine light immediately emerged from his palm. Wherever this ball of divine light passed, the void was silently annihilated, obliterating everything and turning everything into nothingness. This is the limitless power. No matter what great Tao you have, in front of my limitless great Tao, it's all trash, unable to withstand a single blow. Kai Hao said proudly. Limitless? Limitless my ass. In an instant, Yi Lingtian's entire body merged with the yin-yang diagram in front of him. He and the diagram became one, transforming into the yin and yang of yin and flew forward. Swoosh. The yin-yang diagram that Yi Lingtian transformed into broke through Kai Hao's limitless divine light. It flashed across his body and brought out traces of blood mist. The yin-yang diagram disappeared and Yi Lingtian's figure appeared in the void. How is this possible? Kai Hao's entire body stiffened. A blood mark appeared from between his eyebrows and directly spread downwards. Then, his entire body was split in half. In the next moment, Kai Hao's body that was split in half by the yin-yang diagram exploded and turned into two clouds of blood mist. However, the next moment, the blood mist instantly disappeared. In another place, a figure suddenly appeared there. This person was Kai Hao. Damn it, you actually made me waste a death substitution talisman. Kai Hao stared at Yi Lingtian, wishing he could tear this guy into pieces. The value of a death substitution talisman was too great. It was not that easy to refine a death substitution talisman. Even Kai Hao, as the current divine son of Equal Heaven sect, did not have many death substitution talismans on him. One used meant one less. This was a life-saving death substitution talisman. Having a death substitution talisman was equivalent to having an extra life. Death substitution talisman? I want to see how many death substitution talismans you have to die for you. Yi Lingtian sneered. This kind of Dao talisman was not particularly rare in the ancestral realm. In the ancestral realm, there were tens of thousands of clans and countless experts. Extreme Supremes were everywhere. There were many Extreme Supremes who could refine death substitution talismans. Buzz. Yi Lingtian transformed into the yin-yang diagram again and directly slashed at Kai Hao. The yin-yang diagram was too fast. It seemed to surpass everything. Even someone as strong as Kai Hao, the current divine son of Equal Heaven sect, could not avoid it. As soon as he thought of avoiding it, his entire body was directly split in half by the yin-yang diagram. How is this possible? Kai Hao was shocked to the extreme. Even though he had mastered the limitless Dao, it was still difficult to resolve Yi Lingtian's attack. The creatures of the lower realm had actually cultivated such a heaven-defying divine power. It was too frightening. Even in the primordial realm, this guy was probably almost invincible among the quasi-supremes. Kai Hao had to admit that Yi Lingtian's cultivation and battle prowess were not weaker than his. The yin-yang Dao that he had cultivated was also enough to compete with his limitless Dao. Originally, the Heaven Equal sect's limitless secret manual was a supreme cultivation method. When cultivated to the extreme, one could achieve great success in the limitless Dao and become an existence comparable to the extreme supremes. However, Kai Hao was still a bit away from cultivating the limitless secret manual to the extreme. This directly led to him being suppressed by Yi Lingtian. Kai Hao appeared in the void nearby again. With the help of the death substitution talisman, he once again escaped death. Roar! Kai Hao roared. He used another death substitution talisman. He did not have many death substitution talismans on him. If he broke the opponent's divine power again, he would have to run away. If he was forced to flee by a creature of the lower realm, it would definitely be a great humiliation for Kai Hao. When the yin-yang diagram that Yi Lingtian transformed into slashed again, Kai Hao's body had already emerged with a total of 13 layers of divine light. This was the strongest defensive power he had used after escaping a fatal blow with the help of the death substitution talisman. However, under the yin-yang diagram, the 13 layers of defensive divine light on Kai Hao's body were like 13 pieces of paper, easily torn apart. The yin-yang diagram directly slashed Kai Hao's body again. Chapter 44-44. Kai Hao was extremely depressed. He was slashed by Yi Lingtian, an ant from the lower realm, 3 times in a row. That was 3 death substitution talismans. Without the death substitution talismans, he would have died 3 times. To Kai Hao, this was simply unimaginable. After all, even in the grand beginning realm, no one could truly threaten his life. But now, this guy displayed a supreme divine ability that was enough to kill him. Kai Hao was shocked and angry. The 13 defensive Dao artifacts on his body were directly broken by the yin-yang diagram. How was this possible? Could it be that the divine ability of the opponent could break through everything? Limitless void. Kai Hao roared and used his trump card. A mass of limitless divine light immediately erupted from his body and enveloped him. At the same time, Yi Lingtian's yin-yang diagram slashed again. Its speed was still extremely fast. As long as the diagram was activated, Kai Hao could not avoid it at all. Yi Lingtian's yin-yang diagram directly slashed into the mass of limitless divine light outside Kai Hao's body. However, this time, the yin-yang diagram encountered great resistance. Raw. Kai Hao did his best, desperately urging the limitless force. Endless Tao patterns rushed out from his body and imprinted in the void, blocking Yi Lingtian's yin-yang diagram. Yi Lingtian's yin-yang diagram was still slashing towards Kai Hao, but its speed had slowed down. How is this possible? Kai Hao attacked with all his strength. His blood and qi were vast and mighty, and there was a strange sound like thunder coming from his body. Under his full strength, his face also became extremely ferocious. At this time, the battle between Yi Lingtian and Kai Hao had also alarmed Jiyu Ling and the others. Especially Qin Yarrow, she also cultivated the yin-yang Dao and had almost cultivated it to the extreme. Yi Lingtian's body had something that resonated with her. Limitless force against yin-yang, this is a bit interesting, Jiyu Ling said indifferently. For her, what heaven-defying physique, what heaven-defying Dao. It was not as good as the sword in her hand. It was not as good as her Dao. Her father, Jiyu Fei, was an ordinary warrior. He cultivated all the way to the extreme grade realm and even achieved eternity in the ancestral realm. Whether it was one's physique or cultivation technique, it couldn't decide who could become an extreme Dao sovereign. In order to become an extreme Dao sovereign, one had to rely on oneself in the end. Since ancient times, there have been countless monstrous existences, but only a few of them managed to become extreme supremes. Is that limitless sword god? Qin Yarrow was taken aback. This was the first time she had seen an existence that cultivated the limitless Dao. One had to know that the limitless Dao was one of the most powerful great Daos of the heavens and earth. This fellow from the primal beginning realm actually cultivated the limitless way. The sect behind him was definitely impressive. To be able to cultivate the limitless Dao to almost the extreme realm, the sect behind Kai Hao absolutely grasped a supreme technique of the limitless Dao. The supreme technique of the Qin clan that Qin Yarrow belonged to was the yin-yang heavenly art. Without this heavenly art, even if Qin Yarrow possessed her father's bloodline, she would definitely not be able to cultivate the grand Dao of yin-yang to such a level. Martial uncle, who do you think will win? Little fatty Jiyu Xiaofeng laughed. Yi Lingtian, Jiyu Ling said directly. In fact, she could see the actual situation of these two people at a glance. Yi Lingtian came from the Yi clan of the ancestral realm. Although the Heaven Equal sect's divine child Kai Hao was strong, he was still lacking compared to Yi Lingtian. This guy, Qin Yarrow, looked at the yin-yang Dao diagram that Yi Lingtian had transformed with incomparable shock. This kind of divine ability that transformed one's body into a Dao diagram was not something that anyone could use. Even she could not use it. Rumble, the limitless void around Kai Hao's body shook. The yin-yang Dao diagram that Yi Lingtian had transformed into was still pressing towards Kai Hao bit by bit. The yin-yang power that the yin-yang Dao diagram emitted was getting stronger and stronger. Impossible, this is impossible. Kai Hao was almost going crazy. His long hair was dancing wildly. Even if he attacked with all his strength, even if he used all his strength, he still could not block his opponent's divine ability. Damned ant, how can you do this? Kai Hao had no choice but to use his final trump card. The space between his eyebrows suddenly split open, and an extremely bright divine light came out from his eyebrows. It was countless times brighter than the stars in the sky. A terrifying aura that made heaven and earth tremble emanated from his body. Extreme Dao, Jiyu Ling was taken aback. This Kai Hao was using the power of the Extreme Dao. He has an Extreme Dao artifact on him? Little fatty Jiyu Xiaofeng said with some surprise. At this time, something on Qin Yarrow's body seemed to shake, showing signs of awakening. Is it really an Extreme Dao artifact? Qin Yarrow's expression became solemn. Boom. In the next moment, endless divine light of the Extreme Dao rushed out from Kai Hao's eyebrows, illuminating heaven and earth. At this moment, all the living beings in the entire immortal mansion world were terrified. Extreme Dao force, in a valley where bloodlight soared to the sky, a black-clothed middle-aged warrior holding a blood-dripping spear walked out of the valley step by step. The blood of a supreme being still flowed on the spear in his hand. A terrifying murderous aura erupted from his body, shaking the heavens and earth. The spear in his hand was even more ferocious, and even the surrounding blood mist was dispersed. The tip of the spear flowed with the blood of a supreme being. This was the result of the black-clothed warrior. Outside the valley, there were many experts watching. But as soon as they saw the black-clothed warrior walk out, they all dispersed in an uproar. Who is this guy? His murderous aura is shocking. He doesn't recognize him? That's the #1 warrior under Gu Fei, Di Jotian. Ah, that's the legendary Di Jotian? Some people were extremely shocked. Interesting. Some people can't sit still anymore, Di Jotian said with some surprise in the direction of the aura. There was no power of heavenly punishment in the immortal mansion world, but it was definitely not a good place. It was extremely dangerous, and even Di Jotian couldn't see through it. There were some places that even Di Jotian wasn't willing to set foot in easily. There's that kind of invincible power here, Di Jotian muttered. I didn't expect her to come as well. He could sense Jiu Ling's aura, but he didn't pay any attention to her. He took a step forward and disappeared into the void. No one could see where he had gone. This Di Jotian is indeed terrifying. Several incredibly powerful figures walked out from outside the valley. That's a peerless god of death. If you encounter him, run as far as you can. An expert shook his head and sighed. Di Jotian couldn't be defeated, especially in this immortal mansion world. He was an invincible supremacy, and when he was angry, the heavens and earth could collapse. A single spear of his could destroy heaven and earth. Chapter 44-45. In a valley on the outskirts of the immortal mansion world, the power of the extreme path was vast and mighty. The entire valley was shaking violently. Countless ancient runes appeared between heaven and earth, firmly stabilizing the area. Under the impact of the power of the extreme path, although the area seemed like it could collapse at any time, in the end, there was no real scene of destruction. The terrifying power of the extreme path was vast and mighty in all directions. The wind and clouds changed color, and the sun and moon lost their light. Countless creatures were terrified to the extreme. The sudden explosion of the power of the extreme path alarmed the big shots who had entered the immortal mansion world. All the creatures sensed the mighty waves coming from the valley. That madman is using power of this level here. Some people were very unhappy. It should be known that this immortal mansion world was very extraordinary. There was a terrifying power that made even the hearts of extreme path supremes tremble. The inheritance of the immortal mansion world was absolutely earth-shattering. Even a supreme expert like Di Jotian was somewhat moved. He thought that the ultimate power he had been searching for was here. Some experts originally appeared around the valley, but at this time, they all chose to retreat. In the valley, Kai Hao gritted his teeth and used his last resort. His brow split open, and an extreme path Dao artifact appeared between his eyebrows. It was as if a sun had appeared between heaven and earth. Lowly ant of the lower realm, you should be proud to die under my sect's supreme Dao artifact. Kai Hao activated the extreme path Dao artifact with all his might. Under the impact of the extreme Dao's power, the surrounding void rippled like water. Ha ha! Yi Lingtian laughed. At this time, the yin-yang Dao diagram disappeared, and his figure appeared in the void. Facing the power of the extreme path, he was unexpectedly calm. At this time, a hazy light emitted from Jiu Ling's body. This light was not very bright, but it blocked the mighty extreme path Dao artifact and protected Qin Yaro, the little fatty, and the others around her. And on Jiangichen's body, there was also a surge of divine light, blocking the extreme path Dao artifact. Buzz! Under the impact of the extreme path power, the stone golem killing formation also activated. The 9 stone golems seemed to come to life, and each of them had a trace of the extreme path aura. Die! Kai Hao roared. The ball of extreme path Dao divine light immediately flew up from his brow, transforming into a sun that shot towards Yi Lingtian. This sun crushed and destroyed everything it passed. It seemed to be able to break heaven and earth with one blow, turning the world upside down. It was extremely terrifying. Yi Lingtian sneered. In the next moment, a huge seal rushed out from his body. Endless yin and yang energy burst out from the seal. Boom! The yin-yang seal immediately expanded, as if a primordial divine mountain had suddenly appeared between the heavens and earth, directly shattering the void between the heavens and earth. A path Dao artifact. Jiyu Ling and the rest were taken aback. They did not expect Yi Lingtian to also have an extreme Dao weapon on him. As of the Yi Dao artifact of the Yi clan, of the Yi clan Yi sect, of the Dao, of the path, Yi Chen and the path Dao path of the power of Yi path, and was Ling and was. Boom. With a loud bang, the yin-yang seal directly collided with the extreme path Dao artifact that looked like a divine sun, erupting with endless divine light. Terrifying destructive power swept out in all directions. The void within a radius of 1,000 miles was shattered. Everything was obliterated and turned into nothingness. A huge black hole appeared between heaven and earth. Even with the protection of the ancient Dao patterns, the immortal mansion world was still pierced through, and a massive spatial hole was blasted open. The remnant power swept down, and the entire mountain valley was directly reduced to dust. Only the ancient temple remained intact under the protection of the stone golem killing formation. Even the extreme path power could not break the stone golem killing formation. What a powerful formation! Gulling and the others could not help but be moved. At this time, the extreme Dao yin-yang seal flew away, and the extreme Dao treasure that looked like a divine sun was also sent flying. Kai Hao's body shook violently. He kept coughing up blood. If it were not for the protection of the path Dao artifact, he would have been destroyed. Yi Lingtian was not feeling well either. Blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. The blood in his body was boiling. A mouthful of hot blood rushed to his throat, but he forcefully swallowed it back. The divine child of the primordial beginning realm is just SOSO. Yi Lingtian mocked. 10 suns to destroy the world. Kai Hao was enraged. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the sun-like divine light floating above his head. The next moment, the divine light shook violently. Then, 10 dazzling divine lights appeared between heaven and earth. Each of the 10 divine lights emitted waves of extreme path power that were no weaker than the sun-like divine light. It was equivalent to 10 extreme path Dao artifacts showing their power at the same time. Go! Kai Hao roared. The 10 wheels of divine light floating above his head immediately charged towards Yi Lingtian. This time, the 10 divine suns shrouded the entire world. The 10 suns descended from the sky, shattering the void and destroying everything. A large area of the void collapsed. You want to kill me? Yi Lingtian looked up at the 10 divine suns descending from the sky. His long hair danced in the wind. His eyes were many times brighter than the stars in the sky. With a casual wave of his hand, a seemingly ordinary piece of yellow paper flew out from his big sleeve. The yellow paper flew directly into the sky and met the divine suns descending from the sky. That is, Jiyu Ling stared at the yellow paper that flew out of Yi Lingtian's sleeve. Her heart skipped a beat. Something on her body seemed to have some signs of resonance with the yellow paper. He's going to block the extreme path Dao artifact with a piece of yellow paper. Jiyu Xiaofeng, Qin Yarrow, and the others looked at this scene in shock. Is this guy crazy? Hurry up and use the extreme path Dao artifact. Jiyu Xiaofeng said in a low voice. However, at that moment, an unbelievable scene took place in front of Jiyu Ling and the others. The ordinary-looking yellow paper suddenly emitted an endless golden light. In the next moment, the 10 divine suns that descended from the sky in the golden light from the yellow paper dissipated in the void as if they had never appeared. The 10 suns disappeared. Under the illumination of the golden light shining from the yellow paper, a fist-sized crimson divine pearl appeared in the air. Ancient young bead. Kai Hao was scared out of his wits when he saw this scene. This was the supreme Dao artifact of heaven's equal sect in the primordial world. How could it be destroyed by a piece of yellow paper? Cracks appeared on the ancient young bead, and then it directly collapsed in the void. An extreme path Dao artifact was destroyed just like that. What? Kai Hao was stunned. This was the extreme path Dao artifact, the ancient young bead, and it was destroyed just like that. That yellow paper. At this time, Ji Ling no longer had any doubts. She did not expect Yi Lingtian to have such a supreme treasure on him. Although the yellow paper emitted endless golden light, there was not a trace of coercion. It was not earth-shattering like when an extreme Path Dao artifact was activated. However, the power of the yellow paper made little Fatty, Jiyu Xiaofeng, and the others dumbfounded. Even the extreme Path Dao artifact was destroyed. Jiang Gichen's voice trembled. What kind of paper is that? It's so heaven-defying. Qin Yarrow stared at the golden yellow paper. She was also shocked to the extreme. She was a princess and her father was the Yin-Yang Emperor. Even the Emperor father could not destroy a extreme Path Dao artifact so easily in the past. Eternal, Jiyu Ling said in a deep voice. Eternal. Little Fatty, Jiyu Xiaofeng, was baffled. Only Yi Lingtian was a little surprised after hearing Jiyu Ling's words. At this time, Kai Hao screamed and turned to escape. However, Yi Lingtian would not let him go. His body swayed and turned into a yin-yang Dao diagram, directly slashing at the escaping Kai Hao. Swoosh! The Dao diagram flashed past and Kai Hao directly fell from the sky, dead. Yi Lingtian naturally searched Kai Hao's entire body and took away all of Kai Hao's belongings. The golden light emitted from the yellow paper gradually weakened and finally disappeared. Then, the yellow paper turned into dust with the wind and dissipated into the void. It's a pity. If you broke the array with the yellow paper just now, you could have obtained the fortune in the temple. Jiyu Ling looked at Yi Lingtian and said, Haha, it's just a mass of primordial qi. In my eyes, it's not a big fortune. Yi Lingtian laughed. At this time, he also knew Jiyu Ling's identity. Jiyu Fei's successor is indeed extraordinary. Yi Lingtian looked at Jiyu Ling and said, Hehe, I don't need you to tell me that. Little Fatty, Jiyu Xiaofeng laughed. Do you still have that yellow paper? Jiyu Ling suddenly asked Yi Lingtian. No, the great ancestor's decree is not that easy to obtain. Yi Lingtian shook his head and said, All right, let's see how to break the array. Jiang Gichen said, I won't keep you company. Everyone, goodbye. Yi Lingtian put away the extreme yin-yang seal and bid farewell to everyone. He turned around and soared into the sky, disappearing into the void in an instant. This guy, Qin Yarrow, was a little speechless. Yi Lingtian actually did not care about a mass of primordial qi. The Yi clan of the ancestral realm had such a strong foundation. Even the primordial qi could be ignored. At that moment, the terrifying divine aura of the extreme Dao disappeared, and the shattered void nearby quickly recovered. One after another, powerful figures began to appear in the vicinity. Some people rushed over from afar and barged into the stoneman killing array. They were killed by the stoneman killing array and even their primordial spirits were destroyed. The stoneman killing array was devouring all living beings that barged into it. Uncle Master, this, Jiyu Xiaofeng looked at Jiyu Ling. With his cultivation and combat strength, it was undoubtedly a fool's dream to break through the killing array outside the temple. The others also looked at Jiyu Ling. Jiyu Ling did not speak. She thought about it and walked into the killing array step by step. This. Chapter 44-46. In the periphery of the immortal mansion world, the valley with the great fortune had been razed to the ground. The shattered void was rapidly repairing itself, and the terrifying aura that made countless creatures tremble had also dissipated. Gulling and the others were shocked that the ancient young pearl, a supreme treasure, had been broken by a piece of yellow paper. Only Gulling vaguely thought of something, and the way he looked at Yi Lingtian changed. A piece of yellow paper had broken a supreme treasure. This piece of yellow paper was no small matter. However, although that piece of yellow paper was powerful, it did not emit an earth-shattering power. Just as Yi Lingtian used a piece of yellow paper to break Kai Hao's supreme treasure, the ancient young pearl, a roar came from the depths of the heaven-equal sect's ancestral land in the primordial world. This roar directly broke the peace of the heaven-equal sect's ancestral land. Countless experts of the heaven-equal sect were alarmed. Soon, news spread that Grand Supreme Patriarch Kai Xiong had directly broken the seclusion ground and walked out. Then, Someone saw Kai Hao's primordial spirit tablet placed in the heaven-equal pavilion shatter. Once the primordial spirit tablet shattered, it meant that the person who left the tablet was dead. Not even his primordial spirit could escape. God Kai Hao is dead. An extremely shocking news spread in the heaven-equal sect, and everyone was dumbfounded. No wonder Grand Supreme Patriarch Kai Xiong had come out of seclusion at this time. So that was why. Didn't God Kai Hao go to the Chaos Rift to compete with the divine sons and saintesses of other sects for the chaotic fortune? Did he actually die in the Chaos Rift? Who killed Divine Prince Kai Hao? God Kai Hao is one of the 3 great divine sons of our heaven-equal sect. The first divine son, Yuan Tai, once fought with Kai Hao for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, he only won by 1 move. Someone can actually kill the second divine son of our sect. Everyone in the Heavens Equal sect was shocked to the extreme. Even the higher-ups of the Heavens Equal sect were furious. The godchild of the Heavens Equal sect was the future hope of the Heavens Equal sect. He was destined to shake the grand beginning realm. But now, such a heaven-defying divine son, Kai Hao, had died in the Chaos Rift. This made it difficult for the Heaven Equal sect to accept this fact. The news of Heaven Equal sect's divine son Kai Hao's death eventually spread. All the super forces in the primordial beginning realm were alarmed. It had to be known that the Heavens Equal sect was one of the superpowers of the grand beginning realm. It was definitely a colossus that ruled over endless territories and billions of lives. The ancestral land of the Equal Heaven sect was incomparably huge. It was a supreme holy land with experts as common as trees in a forest. The sect master of the Equal Heaven sect was one of the strongest existences in the grand beginning realm. Haha, this is going to be fun. In the primal beginning world, the other organizations watched on. The people of the Pingtian Empire and the chaotic war god palace took pleasure in their misfortune. However, very soon, the people of the Pingtian Empire and the chaotic war god palace could no longer laugh. This was because very soon, news of the sacred Prince Pingtian's death in the crack of chaos spread. Then, the chaotic child of the chaotic god of war palace also died in the Chaos Rift. The news shocked the entire world. After all, the 2 organizations were both supreme organizations of the primordial world. The chaotic battle god palace and the Pingtian divine empire were existences no weaker than the Heavens Equal sect. Haha, do you think that place is so easy to enter? The god of the infinite heavenly sect laughed aloud. Yes, that's a legendary place. Since you dare to go there, you must be prepared to die there. An old ancestor of the primal beginning realm said this. The Immortals' estate in the Chaos Rift was a great secret of the primal beginning realm. Apart from the supreme sects, imperishable sects, and the core members of the invincible divine dynasty, no one knew about it. There were great opportunities and great fortunes everywhere. However, opportunities and fortunes were not that easy to obtain. That place appears once every 100,000 years. Who knows how many geniuses and monstrous existences have died there? Someone said something like that. However, there were also people who obtained a great fortune there and soared into the sky. Some even became supreme sovereigns and established supreme sects. Of course, there were not many people who obtained a great fortune there. The various organizations of the primal beginning realm actually treated the Chaos Rift as a place of trial. However, the trial had only just begun, yet the divine sons and sacred princes of imperishable sects and dynasties had already died. This was definitely not a good thing. Damn it! How dare you kill the holy land of my divine dynasty? No matter who you are, you must die. An old voice rang out from the depths of the imperial capital of the Pingtian Empire. Very soon, an ancestor-level imperial clan member of the Pingtian Empire left the imperial capital. He set off for the chaotic crack with over a dozen powerful members of the imperial clan. Equal Heaven Sect's senior ancestor Kai Xiong also left the Equal Heaven Sect's ancestral ground. Kai Hao was the great-great-grandson of the Heavens Equal Sect's supreme ancestor. Now that Kai Hao had died in the Chaos Immortal abode, the supreme ancestor would naturally not let the matter rest. There was a commotion in the chaotic god of war palace as well. An ancient god of war was born, and his might reached the 9 heavens. As soon as he appeared, he roared at the sky, and countless stars in the sky exploded. It was extremely terrifying. With a roar, the Milky Way shattered. This was definitely a war god of extreme Tao. Apart from this extreme Tao war god, the other Grand Elder of the chaotic battle deity palace had also been dispatched. At this moment, an even more shocking piece of news spread through the primal beginning world. More than half of the divine sons and holy maidens of the various sects, clans, and empires had died. The various organizations had previously sealed off the news, but now, so many divine sons and holy maidens had died in the sacred lands and imperishable sects. This was an earth-shattering matter. It was basically earth-shattering. The various sects and sacred lands could not seal off the news even if they wanted to. What happened in the chaotic immortal abode? So many divine sons and holy maidens actually died. Did a great fortuitous encounter appear in the chaotic immortal abode? Did the divine sons and holy maidens fight it out and suffer heavy casualties? This news was just too shocking. It directly shook up the entire cultivation world of the primal beginning world. Countless people guessed, but no one could imagine that the beings of a lowly world in their eyes had killed the divine sons and holy maidens. At that moment, the major forces of the primordial beginning realm who had fallen in the chaos immortal abode all sent experts to the chaos rift. They wanted to find out what had happened. A patriarch of the Taiyu sacred ground also left. The Taiyu divine son was a genius the Taiyu sacred ground had nurtured with all its might. He had died just like that. The Taiyu sacred lord's heart was bleeding. He regretted letting the Taiyu divine son enter the chaotic immortal abode. However, it had already happened. There was no point in regretting. Just as the major forces of the primal beginning world sent experts to the chaotic crack, Gulling and the others walked into the killing formation of the stone golems in the immortal abode world. She's going to break the formation by herself. Yi Lingtian couldn't help but feel incredulous as he watched Gulling walk forward. He didn't actually leave. Instead, he hid himself in the distance. He was also very curious as to how Gulling and the others would break the formation. Just as Jiyu Ling stepped into the stone golem killing formation, a fist came smashing towards her face. Even an extreme grade supremacy would be injured if she was hit by it. However, just as the stone man's punch was about to land on Jiyu Ling, a faint ball of divine light suddenly surged from Jiyu Ling's body. The fist of the stone golem smashed into Gulling's protective divine light and was sent flying by the recoil. What? Everyone outside the formation was dumbfounded. Even the divine princes from the primal beginning world couldn't block a single punch from the stone golem. But now, the terrifying stone golem in the killing formation had been sent flying by Gulling. Everyone found it hard to believe, but they had to believe it because they had seen it with their own eyes. These guys, in a hidden place in the distance, a fellow was carefully observing Gulling and the others. This fellow was Blood Dark Child, who had been defeated by Yi Lingtian in one move. Blood Dark Child was extremely cunning. He immediately fled when the situation turned sour. Blood Dark Child appeared in the vicinity, so he didn't dare to provoke these people again. However, the primordial aura in the temple was a great fortune. Who wouldn't want it? Blood Dark Child was no exception. He wanted to fish in troubled waters. However, Yi Lingtian was too powerful. A single page of yellow paper was enough to break Kai Hao's ancient young pearl. That was a supreme treasure. Although that yellow paper was also burned, no one knew if Yi Lingtian still had such a yellow paper on him. At that moment, the strength that Gulling displayed made the demon prince of the blood prison demon palace even more shocked. Gulling walked into the killing formation step by step as if she was taking a stroll in the park. The 9 stone golems kept attacking her, but the terrifying attacks from the stone golems were all blocked by a ball of light that spread out from her body. How is this possible? Yi Lingtian, who was hidden in the distance, stared at Gulling in the killing formation. He was inexplicably shocked. The others couldn't see anything, but he was different. Boom. Bam. Dull crashing sounds constantly came from the killing formation. The entire killing formation was in a frenzy, and a monstrous killing aura spread in all directions. Even Qin Yarrow, Jiangachen, and the others outside the formation had to retreat. How is this possible? Yi Lingtian, who was hidden in the distance, had a solemn expression when he saw this scene. Guling completely ignored the attacks of the 9 stone golems and quickly walked past 2/3 of the killing formation. She would soon pass through the killing formation and step onto the steps in front of the temple. Is this her method of breaking the formation? Although Yi Lingtian didn't think much of the primordial qi in the ancient shrine, he didn't expect Guling to break the formation like this. To be precise, she wasn't breaking the formation because she didn't even make a move. Roar! One of the stone golems roared as he sent a punch towards Jiyu Ling. This punch drew upon the energy of the entire killing formation as boundless energy frantically gathered towards his fist. The fist that the stone golem threw at Guling released a dazzling divine light. Boom! The stone golem's fist smashed onto the divine light around Guling's body, making a sound like the beating of a war drum. Transparent ripples appeared on Gulling's protective divine light. Chapter 44-47. Could it be the Extreme Guardian as well? Outside the killing formation, little fatty Jiyu Xiaofeng exclaimed. It doesn't look like it. I can't sense any aura of the Extreme Tao. Qin Yarrow shook her head. The Extreme Guardian was simply a protective talisman refined by an Extreme Tao Supreme. Once it was activated, the power of the Extreme Tao would erupt. It was bound to be earth-shattering. The divine light emitted from Jiyu Ling's body seemed to be somewhat similar to the divine light emitted from the yellow paper that Yi Lingtian used earlier. There was no powerful aura. Yes, Uncle Master is about to succeed. Little fatty Jiyu Xiaofeng's eyes lit up. At that moment, Jiyu Ling was still walking forward step by step in the stoneman killing formation. He was only a few dozen feet away from the steps in front of the temple. At that moment, the entire stoneman killing formation had been activated to its limit. In the void shrouded by the killing formation, blinding thunder tribulation lightning appeared. The 9 stoneman had completely awakened. Each of the stoneman's body was emitting dazzling lightning. It was as if they were 9 terrifying thunder balls that could explode at any time and destroy the world. Each of the stoneman's body erupted with the most powerful aura. Each of the stoneman seemed to be able to crush the heavens and shatter the world. Little fatty Jiyu Xiaofeng, Qin Yarrow, and the others were terrified. In front of these stone men, they felt as weak as ants. The Extreme Tao killing formation, the means of a supreme. Little fatty Jiyu Xiaofeng's voice was trembling. He was not like Qin Yarrow and Jiangechen. Qin Yarrow was a princess and her father was the legendary Yin-Yang Emperor. She knew very well how terrifying an existence of that level was. Jiangechen was from the Jiang family in the human realm. That was a cultivation world with human sovereigns. Jiangechen was known as the Little Supreme of the Jiang family. He naturally knew how powerful an existence of the Extreme Tao was. Plucking the stars, capturing the moon, and swallowing the sun were all trivial matters. Even a sage could do that. An Extreme Tao Supreme was a supreme existence that could shatter the starry sky with a snap of their fingers and destroy a world with a wave of their hand. An Extreme Tao Supreme had the power to truly destroy the world. Otherwise, the power of heavenly punishment wouldn't exist in the human realm and the heavenly realm. The existence of heavenly punishment was to prevent the heavenly realm and the human realm from being destroyed by supreme beings. An extreme-grade sovereign was too powerful. They were supreme existences that stood at the peak of the myriad of worlds. A single finger of theirs could destroy a continent and crush a part of the world. Even Qin Yarrow and Jiangechen had to use their extreme Dao artifacts to protect themselves. Little fatty Jiyu Xiaofeng did not have an extreme Dao weapon, and the human emperor divine mace had been taken back by Jiyu Ling. He could only stand beside Qin Yarrow and bask in the limelight, allowing Qin Yarrow to protect him as well. Otherwise, a single wisp of this extreme divine might would be enough to destroy Jiyu Xiaofeng's body and soul. This Chaos Immortal Mansion world was protected by supreme Dao patterns, which greatly weakened the extreme Dao aura that erupted from the stone golem killing formation. This allowed the countless living beings in the Immortal Mansion to escape. If this was the outside world, the wrath of a supreme being would definitely cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to split apart. Billions of creatures would suffer a calamity. At that moment, Jiyu Ling had already set one foot on the steps in front of the temple. No matter how much the 9 stone golems exerted their power, they could not break through the hazy divine light around her body. The moment Jiyu Ling set foot on the steps in front of the temple, the terrifying killing formation stopped. This was very sudden. The killing formation that had been operating frantically just a moment ago had actually vanished into thin air the next moment. The 9 stone golems returned to the eye of the formation at the same time. The extreme Tao-level thunder tribulation power on their bodies had been completely withdrawn, making them look like ordinary stone statues. This little fatty, who was outside the killing formation, was dumbfounded. Even Qin Yarou and Jiangechen were very surprised. As long as we successfully pass through, the killing formation will immediately stop. Qin Yarou's eyes lit up. If that's the case, Jiangechen's heart skipped a beat. He was actually eager to give it a try. He glanced at the primordial divine light in the temple, then at Jiyu Ling, who was walking step by step up the steps. In the end, he sighed and did not make a move. Primordial Qi? At that moment, a figure rushed toward the temple from the entrance of the Chaos Immortal Abode. In an instant, he arrived above the temple. A terrifying extreme Tao-level aura erupted from this person's body. All living beings within a radius of tens of thousands of miles were instantly terrified. This part of the world, the newcomer was a little surprised. He had not expected his cultivation level to be suppressed so severely. Even in the primordial realm, as long as he released his extreme Tao-level aura, he could cover a radius of tens of thousands of miles. However, in this place, his extreme Tao-level aura could only cover a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Of course, this extreme Tao-level aura could spread very far, but his extreme Tao-level spirit force was restricted to a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Could the laws of heaven and earth here be even stronger than in the primordial realm? The newcomer could not help but feel somewhat shocked when he thought of this. The Chaos Child died here. Did you kill the Chaos Child? The newcomer suddenly stared at Jiangechen. Jiangechen looked at the black-robed elder in the sky in shock. He sensed an extremely dangerous aura from this fellow. This person's entire body was emitting a terrifying aura of destruction. He was like a primordial god of death that could destroy the world. It was as if he could destroy all life around him at any time. The nearby experts from the primordial realm were alarmed. Kang Mie, it's the Grand Elder of the Chaotic War God Palace, Kang Mie. Someone recognized the black-robed elder's origin. What? His Kang Mie? The legendary extermination battle ancestor Kang Mie? Someone exclaimed. The Chaotic War God Palace was a colossus in the primordial realm. The old war gods of the Chaotic War God Palace had terrifying cultivation levels. Those who could be called battle ancestors were all existences of the extreme Tao level. When the Chaotic War God Palace was at its strongest, it even had 36 battle ancestors. Its might shook the primordial realm, and no one dared to disobey its commands. So what if I killed that fellow? Jiangechen said indifferently as he met battle ancestor Kang Mie's gaze. Die. Battle ancestor Kang Mie slammed his palm towards Jiangechen. Rumble. A huge hand instantly enveloped the entire world. Even Qin Yarou and Little Fatty were engulfed. The might of the extreme Tao level shook the 9 heavens. The huge hand was still in the sky, but the ground had already begun to sink. A huge palm print appeared on the ground. Bullying the weak. The people of the primordial realm are really shameless. Jiangechen sneered. One of the supreme Tao weapons on his body was activated. It rushed out of his body and turned into a huge dragon. It soared into the sky and shook the heavens and the earth. Boom! The azure dragon collided with the huge hand that descended from the sky. In the next moment, the extreme Tao level azure dragon was actually suppressed by the huge hand. An extreme Tao level Tao artifact was, after all, a Tao artifact refined by an extreme Tao level supremacy. Jiangechen's extreme Tao level Tao artifact was really not enough in front of a true extreme Tao level supremacy. Buzz! Just as Jiangechen was about to be hit by battle ancestor Kang Mie's palm, Qin Yarou's body suddenly vibrated. Then, a yin-yang Tao diagram rushed out of her body and blocked the huge hand that descended from the sky. Chapter 44-48. The Grand Elder of the Chaotic Battle God Palace, Battle Ancestor Kang Mye, charged into the Primal Chaos Immortal Palace. The moment he appeared, he immediately stared at Jiang Chen. This was because Jiang Chen had the aura of Chaos Seed on him. Needless to say, Chaos Seed had definitely been killed by this fellow. The Son of Chaos was the divine son of the chaotic god of War Palace. He was being nurtured as the next Palace Lord of the chaotic god of War Palace. This Chaos Child was also very heaven-defying. He had only cultivated for less than 1,000 years, but he was already a quasi-supreme. Given time, it was not impossible for Chaos Child to break through to the extreme grade realm. But now, the Son of Chaos was dead. Everything was over, and the chaotic god of War Palace's 1,000 years of hard work was wasted. Jiang Chen had killed the chaotic child, and the consequences were severe. He had directly provoked the Grand Elder of the Chaotic Battle Deity Palace, Kang Mye. Moreover, another battle ancestor of the Chaotic Battle Deity Palace was also rushing to the chaotic immortal abode with his men. As a matter of fact, the reason Battle Ancestor Kang Mye was so furious was because the Son of Chaos was actually one of his descendants. Without any hesitation, Battle Ancestor Kang Mye attacked immediately. He wanted to kill Jiang Chen and the others to avenge Chaos Child. Rumble, the terrifying hand descended from the sky, enveloping the entire area. It wanted to kill everyone in the vicinity with a single palm strike. The divine might of the extreme Tao shook the 9 heavens. The moment Kang Mye attacked, the wind and clouds changed color and the sun and moon lost their light. Under the giant hand, the sky and the void were directly destroyed. The supreme Tao artifact that Jiang Chen had released could not neutralize the power of Kang Mye's palm. This was a shocking scene. The azure dragon that Jiang Chen's supreme Tao artifact had transformed into was actually slapped down from the sky by a huge hand. Seeing that Jiang Chen couldn't block it, a yin-yang Tao talisman immediately rushed out from Qin Yao's body. It instantly grew larger and not only blocked the large hand, but it also blocked the entire sky. Roar! Jiang Chen roared and frantically activated the extreme Tao artifact. In the next moment, the azure dragon that had been slapped down from the sky soared into the sky again. The 2 extreme Tao grade Tao artifacts erupted with an unprecedentedly powerful extreme Tao grade power, causing the surrounding area to shake violently. Boom! Amidst the earth-shattering noise, the 2 supreme Tao weapons collided with the giant hand descending from the sky. A powerful supreme Tao-level energy storm swept out in all directions. Wherever the energy storm passed, the void would be annihilated. It was as if it could crush and obliterate everything. The yin-yang Tao diagram directly rushed down from the sky, sinking into Qin Yao's body. Qin Yao's body trembled, and a trace of blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth. At the same time, the shadow of a dragon descended from the sky and rushed into Jiang Chen's body. The powerful impact almost caused his body to collapse. Terrifying bloody wounds appeared on his body. The huge hand that slapped down from the sky finally dissipated in the void. With just one strike, Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination suppressed 2 supreme Tao treasures. His divine might was unparalleled. This shocked Jiang Chen. This fellow was definitely not as simple as an extreme Tao sovereign. Go! Qin Yao grabbed Jiyu Xiaofeng, who was next to her, and rushed into the distance with the Tao diagram protecting her. Jiang Chen also fled at the first instant. This old fellow was too strong. Even when the 2 of them used their supreme Tao treasures together, they could only barely block a seemingly casual strike from the other party. Primordial energy. Just as Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination was about to attack again, Jiyu Ling had already reached the end of the steps. She climbed up and arrived at the gate of the temple. Whoosh! Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination reached out with his right hand and grabbed at the temple. He wanted to grab the temple in one go. Primordial energy was not essential to Forefather Firmament Extermination. However, if he could obtain it, he would be able to. Jiyu Ling looked up with an indifferent expression. Then she retracted her gaze and walked into the temple. At this moment, she was not afraid of anything, unless an existence in the eternal realm attacked her. However, such existences were as rare as phoenix feathers and Chilean horns, even in the primogenitor's realm. Boom! Just as Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination's hand was several hundred feet away from the temple, the 9 stone golems outside the temple began to emit dazzling lightning bolts. 9 bolts of lightning shot into the sky and pierced towards Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination. Each bolt of lightning was larger than a mountain. What? Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination was shocked. He did not expect this temple to be protected by an array. 9 bolts of tribulation lightning shot up into the sky and blocked Battle Ancestor Kang Mie's giant hand that was reaching down from the sky. At this moment, Jiyu Ling had already entered the temple and arrived before the mass of primordial energy that was enshrined in the center of the temple. Boom! Bam! Extremely heavy sounds of collisions constantly resounded from outside the divine hall. The air rippled, and even within the divine hall, the ripples could still be felt. Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination was attacking the stone golem killing array. Even with his cultivation and battle strength, he could not do anything to this killing array. Roar! Within the killing array, the 9 stone golems roared incessantly. It was as if 9 supremes of the extreme Tao had appeared in the world at the same time. Damn it! Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination was both shocked and furious. At this moment, the 3 fellows had already escaped. However, this was nothing. As long as the 3 fellows were still in the Primal Chaos Immortal Mansion, he could kill them and avenge the Child of Chaos. The primordial energy could allow him to nurture another invincible realm descendant. I'll collect the primordial energy first, then kill these ants. Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination gritted his teeth and charged into the killing array below to fight against the 9 stone golems. Boom! Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination's battle strength was unparalleled. He took out a huge halberd and swept away 3 stone golems with it. Kill! Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination waved the halberd in his hand and continuously swept away the stone golems. Then, he charged towards the temple in a domineering manner. Battle Ancestor Extermination of the chaotic god of Battle Palace is indeed worthy of his reputation. Some of the experts from the Primal Beginning realm who were spectating nearby could not help but exclaim at the battle strength displayed by Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination. Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination was extremely berserk. His extreme Tao level strength surged violently. As he charged forward, the 9 stone golems could not stop him. Bam! The moment Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination stepped onto the steps in front of the temple, the entire temple shook violently. At this moment, Jiyu Ling had already walked out of the temple. Little girl, hand over the primordial energy, or else. Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination walked up the steps step by step. He gripped his halberd and glared at Jiyu Ling fiercely. Or else what? Jiyu Ling said indifferently. Go to hell. Battle Ancestor Firmament Extermination stomped on the ground. Boom. The ground immediately collapsed, and a large pit appeared on the incomparably hard ground. In the next moment, he disappeared from where he stood. Roar. Chapter 44-49. The battle ancestors of the chaotic war god Palace were a bunch of lunatics. They were known as the number 1 fighters in the primordial realm. The supreme elder of the chaotic war god Palace, Kang Mie, was known as the extermination battle ancestor. His methods were ruthless and his actions could only be described as crazy. Anyone who offended Kang Mie would be annihilated by him. Even the force behind that person would be annihilated. Battle ancestor Kang Mie had once killed someone who had unintentionally offended him. Then, with his halberd in hand, he killed his way into the sect behind that person. Blood flowed like a river, and not a single chicken or dog was spared. This was an ancient sect that had once ruled over an entire region, and even had an extreme Tao utmost being in charge of it. Yet, it was annihilated by this Kang Mie. The sect master of the ancient sect, the extreme Tao supremacy, was killed by the exterminating battle god Kang Mie. His body and soul were destroyed and he died. Kang Mie's final attack destroyed the ancestral ground of that ancient sect, erasing it from the primordial realm. Ever since that battle, no one dared to provoke the battle ancestor of the chaotic god of War Palace. He was called the extermination battle ancestor. In the entire chaotic god of War Palace, No one could suppress him except for the palace master. As for the son of chaos, he was his successor. He was nurtured as the next palace master of the war god palace. But now, the son of chaos died in the hands of these lowly ants. Kang Mier was enraged. Kill. At this moment, battle ancestor Kang Mier struck out with all his strength, slashing towards Jiyu Ling, who was standing in front of the gate. The violent power shook the heavens, causing countless cracks to appear in the void. If it was somewhere else, his attack would definitely be able to destroy an ancient divine mountain, destroy a part of the void, and destroy everything. However, the void where the palace was located was extremely stable. Even a full-powered strike from an existence like battle ancestor Kang Mier couldn't destroy the void here. What a stable place. What a powerful great Dao law. Battle ancestor Kang Mier suddenly realized what this place was. He couldn't help being shocked and his aura weakened a little. At this moment, Jiyu Ling extended her right hand and grabbed the halberd that battle ancestor Kang Mier had struck down. The terrifying power that could kill an extreme Dao supremacy was actually blocked by her casually. What? Battle ancestor Kang Mier was extremely shocked. He never imagined that a little girl who wasn't even a supremacy stage could grab his halberd with her bare hands. Taking on a Dao artifact with his bare hands? This was too inconceivable. One had to know that this little girl was only a quasi-supreme being. A quasi-supreme being was someone he could destroy with a single slap. Could it be? Kang Mier was shocked. Just then, Kang Mier felt a strong force coming from the battle halberd. Then, both his hands shook and the battle halberd in his hands was snatched away by the other party. Impossible. Battle ancestor firmament extermination was no longer just shocked. How could this woman before him be so strong that she could snatch away his battle halberd? Even the master of the chaotic god of war palace couldn't take away his weapon. At this moment, battle ancestor Kang Mier suddenly laughed when he saw this woman. Oh no! Battle ancestor Azure Extermination's heart skipped a beat. Then, he saw Jiyu Ling casually wave her hand. In the next moment, 7 or 8 balls of divine light exploded from his body. All his protective Dao artifacts were shattered. He felt as if he had been hit by an ancient sacred mountain. His entire body flew out and fell into the stoneman killing array outside the palace. Roar! In the next moment, the stoneman killing array was activated. 9 huge stone men walked out of the array and surrounded battle ancestor Kang Mier. War! Battle ancestor Kang Mier's chest heaved up and down as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Preposterous! Scram! Battle ancestor Kang Mier was enraged. Violent energy exploded from his body. 9 rays of divine light turned into giant dragons and knocked the 9 stone men away. His long hair danced wildly in the wind. He was crazy to the extreme. Roar! Battle ancestor Kang Mier roared into the sky, causing the entire killing formation to shake violently. Boundless killing intent filled every inch of the void within the killing formation. Even the Dao patterns that constructed the killing formation dimmed. Impossible. How can an ant from the lower domain be stronger than me? Battle ancestor Kang Mier stared at the figure on the platform. His eyes were like a peerless sword that pierced through the void. Why not? Jiyu Ling stood on the platform and looked down at battle ancestor Kang Mier calmly. Boom. Beam after beam of divine light shot out from battle ancestor firmament extermination's body, transforming into 9 extreme Dao treasures. Every single one of these Dao treasures exploded with extreme Dao energy waves. The 9 extreme Dao artifacts quickly awakened and formed an extreme Dao domain around battle ancestor Kang Mier. Bang! A stone man arrived and punched battle ancestor Kang Mier's extreme Dao domain. The 9 extreme Dao artifacts vibrated at the same time. The power released directly knocked the stone man away. Countless cracks appeared on the stone man's body. It was on the verge of collapsing. However, in the next moment, 9 Dao inscriptions appeared on the stone man's body. The cracks on the stone man's body began to disappear at a speed visible to the naked eye. Little brat, how dare you look down on this ancestor? Go to hell! Battle ancestor Kang Mier soared into the sky. He controlled the 9 extreme Dao artifacts and directly attacked Jiyu Ling on the platform. His might was shocking and it seemed as though he could crush a part of the world. So what if you're peerless? Ji Ling smiled. She didn't care about Battle Ancestor Kang Mie's peerless attack at all. Kill, kill, kill. Battle Ancestor Kang Mie seemed to have descended into madness. Boundless killing intent swept through the sky. At this moment, the countless experts in the sky who saw this scene were all shocked to the extreme. Such a powerful attack would even turn an ordinary extreme Dao supremacy into dregs. This Battle Ancestor Kang Mie can destroy an ancient sect with a single attack and kill extreme Dao supremacies like slaughtering chickens. He truly lives up to his name. An expert from the primordial world exclaimed. That brat actually dared to provoke Battle Ancestor Kang Mie. Looks like she's in for it. Some people didn't think Ji Ling would win. Hihi, is that so? That might not be the case. A voice rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young monk wearing a white monk robe walking over with an alms bowl in his hand. This monk didn't have any Buddhist light lingering around him. He looked just like an ordinary person. However, no one dared to look down on this young monk because he had just crippled an expert from the primordial world not too long ago. Who would dare to look down on such a ferocious person? Little Baldy, I heard that you obtained quite a lot of good stuff. At this moment, another figure appeared. When everyone saw this person, they immediately retreated and didn't dare to approach him. Old Tortoise, you actually came out of that place alive. It seems like you obtained some good fortune from there. The young monk immediately smiled when he saw that person. When did Fan Xiu and Demon Lord get together? When the experts from the heavenly realm saw these two people, their expressions couldn't help but change. Whether it was Fan Xiu or this Demon Lord from the heavenly realm, they were both extremely difficult to deal with. These two fellas didn't play by the rules. These two fellas were feared by everyone. No one dared to provoke them because those who provoked them all ended up in a miserable state. Boom. At this moment, on the steps in front of the temple, Battle Ancestor Kang Mie's terrifying attack landed on Ji Ling. The 9 supreme Dao weapons hit her at the same time. At the same time, Kang Mie's extreme Dao realm power enveloped Ji Ling, wanting to obliterate her. How is this possible? Although Kang Mie's attack hit Ji Ling, he wasn't happy at all. She actually didn't take his attack head-on and allowed it to land on her. More importantly, his attack was enough to kill a mid-level supreme martial artist. Even a supreme martial artist who had achieved great success in the extreme Dao wouldn't dare to take this attack head-on. However, when the 9 great Dao treasures landed on this girl, she didn't even bat an eyelid, as if she didn't feel anything. She didn't even frown. Even when his extreme Dao domain enveloped this girl, it actually lost the power it should have. She felt like she was bathing in the spring breeze when facing his attack. This was the only thing that came to Battle Ancestor Kang Mie's mind. Is that all you've got? Ji Ling suddenly laughed. Battle Ancestor Kang Mie's shock was no small matter. His all-out attack couldn't hurt her at all. Was this girl actually a legendary existence? At this moment, Ji Ling's body shook. The 9 supreme Dao weapons that landed on her body were immediately sent flying. Cracks appeared on each of the supreme Dao weapons. Even Battle Ancestor Kang Mie was sent flying. His extreme Dao realm collapsed and he coughed out blood continuously. That was the blood of a supreme martial artist. Every drop could destroy the world and turn an area into nothingness. It was extremely domineering. Whoosh! Ji Ling took a step forward and instantly caught up to Battle Ancestor Kang Mie. Scram! She waved the divine halberd that she had snatched from Battle Ancestor Kang Mie and ruthlessly swept it at Battle Ancestor Kang Mie. Battle Ancestor Kang Mie was immediately sent flying. He disappeared from the immortal mansion world. No one knew where he flew to. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Even the little monk Fan Xiu stuck out her tongue. Old Tortoise was dumbfounded. My little niece is too fierce. Old Tortoise exclaimed. At this moment, Ji Ling had already passed through the Stoneman killing array and walked out. After passing through the killing array, she felt exhausted. She staggered and almost fell. The price of using this thing is indeed a little high. Ji Ling smiled bitterly. 80% of the yuan qi in her body had been sucked away by that thing on her. Her yuan qi was almost damaged. She didn't hesitate and directly consumed a drop of undying godly liquid. At this moment, some people who saw this scene from afar were shocked. Could it be that she was injured in the battle with Kang Mye? Some people were tempted. One should know that there was a mass of primordial qi hidden in the temple. That was the ancestral qi of heaven and earth. It had endless uses. If they could obtain that mass of primordial qi, they would definitely be able to increase their cultivation. Chapter 4450. Jiyu Ling had obtained the primordial chaos energy. Actually, her father, Jiyu Fei, had already cultivated the primordial chaos energy. This primordial chaos energy was nothing to her. Of course, she had obtained it herself, so it had a different meaning. However, if it wasn't for the sky blue immortal gold battle armor that her father, Jiyu Fei, had given her, she wouldn't have been able to break through the stoneman killing array outside the shrine, nor would she have been able to completely ignore the attacks of the great elder Kang Mye of the chaotic battle god palace. However, using the sky blue immortal gold battle armor had cost her quite a bit. 80% of her vital energy had been drained by the sky blue immortal gold battle armor, and she was on the verge of collapsing. In this immortal mansion world, there were dangers everywhere. She immediately took a drop of the immortal godly elixir that she had gotten from little monk Fan Xiu. After that drop of immortal godly elixir dissolved in her body, it only took a few breaths' time to completely replenish the vital energy she had used. This immortal godly elixir is really heaven-defying. Jiyu Ling couldn't help but be moved by the changes in her body. Not only had her vital energy been replenished, but it seemed to be much stronger than before. Most importantly, the immortal substance contained in the immortal godly elixir had fused into her body, strengthening her life force and making it much stronger. Because the sky blue immortal gold battle armor had concealed Jiyu Ling's aura, no one could tell that she had already recovered her vital energy. They were all guessing whether she had also been severely injured in the battle with battle ancestor Kang Mye. In the world of cultivation, whoever had the hardest fist could dictate the life and death of others. This was an eternal law that would never change no matter where you were. The strong ruled over the weak. This was the truth. Jiyu Ling had taken the primordial chaos energy from the shrine, which would make many people target her. In the world of cultivation, killing and robbing was the most common thing. She actually took the primordial chaos energy. Little monk Fan Xiu smiled and immediately retreated. He didn't dare to provoke Jiyu Ling. Who knew how many powerful things she had on her? She was Jiyu Fei's daughter. The consequences of provoking his daughter would be dire. Ayo, I'm leaving too. Like a thief, the old tortoise quietly retreated. If he were to be entangled by this little niece, he would have to bleed a lot. In the heaven realm and the human realm, those who knew about Jiyu Ling's background didn't dare to have any thoughts of killing her and stealing her treasures. In this world, who would dare to touch Jiyu Fei's daughter? That was an existence even more ferocious than a peerless vicious person, an existence even more ferocious than the great calamity Shen Huang. A single rage could flatten a forbidden region, a single sword strike could behead a supreme being, shaking both the celestial and human realms. Even Di Jotian had submitted to him and become his disciple. Many people saw that Di Jotian had also entered this world. He was a supreme existence at the supremacy level, and he could compete with the supremacy of the primogenitor realm. Of course, the people of the primal beginning realm had no idea who Jiyu Fei, Jiyu Ling, or Di Jotian were. Boom. Someone couldn't help but make a move. A divine sun suddenly appeared in the gloomy sky, and the aura of extreme yang instantly filled every inch of the void. Give me the Hong Meng Qi. An incomparably majestic voice came from the sky, and a terrifying heat burned the void. The shadow of a three-legged bird appeared on the divine sun, looking down at Jiyu Ling Golden Crow. An extreme Dao Golden Crow? The experts of the heaven realm and the human realm were all shocked. The Golden Crow clan had never disappeared from the heaven realm and the human realm, but this Golden Crow clan didn't have a supreme being. Moreover, this Golden Crow sovereign dared to attack Jiyu Ling, so he naturally didn't know Jiyu Ling's background. Jiyu Ling looked up at the sky. Someone actually dared to attack her? Lowly ant, offer up the Hong Meng Qi and scram. The Golden Crow sovereign in the sky didn't care about Jiu Ling at all. His tone was extremely arrogant, as if he didn't care to squash an ant to death. What is this guy saying? The experts from the heaven realm and the human realm were all stunned. This guy is too awesome. I can't help but admire him. Did this feathered beast get kicked in the head by a donkey? This guy from the primordial realm is indeed different. He actually dared to provoke the Jiu clan. The experts from the heaven realm looked at the Golden Crow as if they were looking at an idiot. So what if he was a supreme? Jiu Fei and his daughter were fearless. It wasn't like Jiu Fei hadn't killed a supreme before. Even the great ominous being, Shen Huang, wasn't a match for Jiu Fei. He was captured by Jiu Fei, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. All of you, shut up. The Golden Crow sovereign in the sky roared angrily, and a terrifying pressure spread in all directions. Some people with weaker cultivations were directly shaken to the point where their ears bled. Some people even fell from the sky because of the terrifying sound waves. You're just a stupid bird, what are you roaring for? A huge shadow appeared in the depths of the immortal mansion world. The huge figure was like a giant god that opened the sky, and one couldn't see the end of it at a glance. A terrifying pressure spread out, and the whole world seemed like it was about to collapse. Pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the void. Fellow Daoist, I advise you to mind your own business. The Golden Crow sovereign turned and sneered at the figure in the depths of the immortal mansion world. A frog at the bottom of a well. You think you're invincible just because you came from the primordial realm? You can truly look down on the heavens? How laughable. The figure's voice boomed out, and the entire world became very unstable. What did you say? The Golden Crow sovereign, who was like a sun in the sky, was enraged. When a supreme was enraged, the heavens shook and the earth trembled. That sun seemed like it was about to burn through the sky. Stupid bird, let me teach you how to be a person. Ah, no, it should be how to be a bird. The figure said disdainfully. Me. The Golden Crow sovereign sneered. In the next moment, a sharp golden claw swiped down towards Jiu Ling. He wanted to kill Jiu Ling first, obtain that ball of primordial energy, and then deal with that fellow in the depths of the immortal mansion world. That fellow in the depths of the immortal mansion world was very powerful. A Dharma idol of heaven and earth was enough to make a quasi-supreme wet his pants. That was a formidable foe. The Golden Crow sovereign didn't dare to underestimate such an existence. They were both extreme Dao paragons. When their auras interacted, it was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. That fellow in the depths of the immortal mansion world definitely had a cultivation and battle prowess that was not inferior to his own. The Golden Crow sovereign didn't fear this sort of existence. Sigh. Jiu Ling sighed, then directly took out a yellow sheet of paper and threw it towards the Golden Crow's claw that was swiping down from the sky. Yellow paper? Seeing this scene, some of the experts watching from afar instantly paled. This is, even Yi Lingtian's eyes widened. To ordinary people, this yellow paper had no power at all. However, not long ago, Yi Lingtian had used this yellow paper to kill Kai Hao, the divine child of the Heaven's Equal sect in the primordial beginning realm. And there were quite a few people who had seen this scene. Yi Lingtian had used a yellow paper to break through the extreme Dao and kill the divine child. To ordinary people, this was simply a miracle, a legend among legends. Of course, when Yi Lingtian had killed Kai Hao, the Golden Crow sovereign hadn't arrived yet. Naturally, he hadn't seen that terrifying scene that was like a legend. The Golden Crow divine claw, which was as huge as a mountain, directly swiped at that yellow paper. Little girl, have you been scared silly by me? The Golden Crow sovereign sneered. This little thing actually threw a yellow paper at him. Did she want to use a yellow paper to block his attack? This was really too funny. However, the yellow paper that Jiu Ling had thrown out flew past, and then the Golden Crow sovereign's claw that was swiping at him soundlessly split in half. Golden blood sprinkled down from the sky. Every drop radiated a dazzling golden light, as if a large number of densely packed golden stars were falling from the sky. This, the Golden Crow sovereign was extremely shocked. This was just a piece of yellow paper without any energy fluctuations. How could it hurt him? The experts who were watching the battle nearby were also dumbfounded. The yellow paper that Jiu Ling had thrown out still flew towards the Golden Crow Sovereign. The yellow paper seemed to be blown by the wind as it floated towards the Golden Crow Sovereign. It still flashed past, and then the divine sun that the Golden Crow Sovereign had transformed into was split in half. How is this possible? The Golden Crow Sovereign couldn't believe that he would actually be killed by a yellow paper. This was really an unjust death. The yellow paper looked ordinary, but at this moment, no one dared to underestimate it. Everyone who stared at that yellow paper had a different look in their eyes. The figure in the depths of the Immortal Mansion world was very surprised to see this scene. The huge figure that was taller than the sky also disappeared between heaven and earth, as if it had never been there. Is that a contingency plan left behind by that existence? Yi Lingtian suddenly thought of a person, an existence that even he trembled in fear. The Yi family was a superpower in the primogenitor realm, and they had the support of the Yi family's ancestor. Back then, Jiu Fei had swept through the primogenitor realm by himself, and even the Wood clan had been destroyed by him. Yi Lingtian had definitely heard of Jiu Fei's fame. Apart from Jiu Fei, who else in the universe could refine a yellow paper that could kill a supreme being? It wasn't a Tao artifact, but a decree from a supreme existence in the eternal realm. Once an eternal decree was used, even a supreme being would die. After the yellow paper that Jiu Ling had thrown out split the Golden Crow Sovereign in half, it started to burn and turn into ashes, as if it had never been there in the first place. As for the Golden Crow Sovereign from the primogenitor realm, after he was split in half by that yellow paper, both his physical body and primordial spirit started to burn and turn into ashes as well. The sun that had been hanging across the sky disappeared. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, as if a huge mountain that had been weighing down on their hearts had been moved away. This was the destruction of both body and soul. A lofty supreme being had actually perished in this immortal mansion world. This left everyone from the primogenitor realm completely dumbfounded. No one had thought that an extreme supreme being would perish. It must be known that this was a supreme existence that stood at the peak of the universe. At this time, even those fellows from the primogenitor realm knew that this little girl was not an existence that could be trifled with. How is this possible? All the experts from the primogenitor realm couldn't believe it. And just as everyone was stunned, a vast and boundless aura suddenly came from the entrance of the Immortal Mansion world, and a supreme figure appeared in the Immortal Mansion world. Behind that figure stood over a dozen incomparably powerful existences. Those figures all exuded shocking battle intent and a cold murderous aura. These people were like a group of war gods that had walked out of the primordial chaos. The people from the chaotic war deity palace have arrived. Chapter 4451. The chaotic war god palace is known to be the strongest in the primal beginning realm. They really are swift and decisive. They've arrived so quickly, sighed an expert of the primal beginning realm. The deaths of over a dozen divine sons and holy maidens was enough to shock the entire primal beginning realm. After all the divine dynasties, sacred grounds, and large sects that had been conferred the title of divine sons and holy maidens were the peak figures of the younger generation. If these people were allowed to mature, they would definitely become rulers of a region. Yet now, they had all died in the world of the chaotic immortal mansion. Whether it was the chaotic war god palace, the Pingtian divine empire, or the heaven's equal sect, they were all furious. They all sent their ancestors to the chaotic immortal mansion. However, it seemed like only the people of the chaotic war god palace had arrived. The one in the lead was an ancient battle god. The moment this ancient battle god stood in the void, the entire heaven and earth started to become unstable. Immense power erupted from the ancient god of war's body, causing pitch-black spatial cracks to appear in the surrounding space. He carefully controlled his presence, so the experts of the chaotic war god palace behind him did not feel any pressure at all. However, apart from the powerhouses from the chaotic god of war palace, the countless living beings within a radius of tens of thousands of miles felt as if a primordial sacred mountain had suddenly descended and pressed down on their bodies the moment the ancient god of war appeared. Before a supreme god of slaughter, countless living beings were ants. Since the supreme god of slaughter had emerged, blood would definitely flow like rivers. The ancient god of slaughter was a supreme expert who had emerged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He had entered the path of cultivation through slaughter. In his eyes, all living beings in the world could be killed. Whoever killed a divine son of the chaotic war god Pallas, step forward and accept your death. Otherwise, everyone here will die with the chaotic child. The ancient god of slaughter glanced past everyone present coldly. However, no one said anything. They were all stunned by the ancient god of slaughter's words. Not only had the people of the heavens world and humans world entered the immortal mansion, but many people from the primal beginning realm had come as well. The primal beginning realm was filled with thousands of races and experts. There was a large number of heaven's sects and divine religions. There were naturally many people who had been conferred the title of Divine Son and Holy Maiden. Even the Heaven Equal sect had 3 divine princes, and Kai-Hao was only one of them. The super forces of the primal beginning realm would nurture several divine sons and saintesses, not just one. This was because no one knew what would happen in the next moment in the cultivation world. Even the divine princes and saintesses of the major heavenly sects and divine sects were in danger of dying. At that moment, Yi Lingtian's figure had already disappeared. In fact, he had already quietly retreated when the war god appeared. However, Jiangachen did not leave. The chaotic son of the chaotic battle deity Pallas had died at his hands. Great god of war, I know who killed fellow Daoist Chaos. At this moment, a young man in purple suddenly walked out and clasped his hands in greeting to the god of slaughter. His expression was calm and there was a smile on his face. Under the pressure of the ancient god of slaughter, it was as if he wasn't affected at all. Jiangachen's expression changed as he looked at the purple-clad youth. So it's the little guy from the Eastern Purple Chi sect. Do you know who killed the chaotic son? Upon hearing this, the aura on the peerless killer's body surged. This time, even the experts from the chaotic battle deity Pallas who were protected by him felt a strong sense of pressure. The purple-robed young man facing the peerless reaper of death was in an even worse state. He directly lay on the ground, shivering. A mass of divine light emerged from his body, but in the next moment, it instantly collapsed. He couldn't even withstand the formless aura of the peerless reaper of death. It's Xing Litian from the Eastern Purple Chi sect. Someone recognized the purple-robed youth's origins. His brother, Xing Lidi, is the #1 divine son of the Eastern Purple Chi sect. Someone exclaimed. The Eastern Purple Chi sect was one of the 10 major heavenly sects of the primal beginning realm. It was as famous as the Heaven Equal sect. It could be said that it was a super-ancient lineage. The #1 divine son of the Eastern Purple Chi sect was definitely at the peak of the quasi-supreme level. He had already taken half a step into the extreme grade. Although Xing Litian was the elder brother, he was far from being comparable to his younger brother, Xing Lidi. However, Xing Litian had such a heaven-defying younger brother. His status in the Eastern Purple Chi sect wasn't bad either. Most true disciples of the Eastern Purple Chi sect had to curry favor with him. It should be noted that the #1 divine son of the Eastern Purple Chi sect was the first in line to be the next sect master. If there were no accidents, he would be the next sect master. For top heavenly sects like these, the sect masters weren't always fixed. Every once in a while, when the divine sons of the sect had fully matured, the sect master would abdicate and become the grand sect master. For example, the Eastern Purple Chi sect had 3 grand sect masters in charge. The grand sect masters of each sect didn't care about worldly affairs. They would only intervene when the sect was facing a life-and-death situation. The person who killed Brother Chaotic Son is here, Xing Litian said. His voice was trembling. The being in front of him was a supreme battle ancestor. He was extremely powerful and a wisp of his aura seemed to be able to crush the entire world. Even though he had a secret treasure on him, he was still extremely frightened. That kind of fear came from the depths of his soul and made him tremble uncontrollably. What did you say? The primordial battle god from the chaotic battle god Pallas was instantly enraged. Rays of chaotic divine light appeared around the primordial battle god and tore the void apart. Who is it? Show yourself. Zhonzu Kuan Yu roared angrily. Terrifying sound waves spread out. Visible ripples appeared in the void and spread out in all directions. Countless experts who were watching the battle nearby were all extremely shocked by Kuan Yu's roar and immediately retreated. Some unlucky fellows were directly turned into a mist of blood by Kuan Yu's roar and died. Even those experts who were lucky enough to escape in time were shaken to the point that their blood and qi churned, and they almost vomited blood. At that moment, many experts who had witnessed the battle between Jianguchen and Chaotic Sun turned to look at Jianguchen. "Little fellow, it's you?" Zhonzu Kuan Yu roared. He extended his hand and grabbed at Jianguchen. A violent devouring power erupted from his palm, as though the entire world was about to be devoured. This battle ancestor was so powerful that his extreme spirit force enveloped the entire world. With the extreme spirit force's detection, even the slightest movement would be captured by him. "I'm not going to keep you company," Jianguchen said as he crushed a Dao talisman in his hand. In the next moment, a ball of divine light enveloped him and he disappeared into the void. "What?" Kuan Yu was extremely shocked. This part of the world had been sealed by him and no one should have been able to escape. What was wrong with this little fellow? Jianguchen left. No one could see how he had left, not even the battle ancestor from the chaotic battle god palace. "All of you, go to hell." The infuriated battle ancestor Kuan Yu directly unleashed his anger on the unlucky people present. He waved his right hand, and a beam of divine light shot forward. In an instant, dozens of cultivators were cut into halves by this beam of divine light, and they died. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The old ancestor from the chaotic war deity palace was too crazy. He actually wanted to kill everyone present. "Kuan Yu, you've gone too far." A voice rang out from the entrance to the world of immortals. Afterwards, an old man appeared in outer space. "Going too far? Don't tell me that our divine son has died in vain." Kuan Yu stared at the old man and said coldly, "Then you should be looking for the culprit instead of killing the innocent." The old man was emotionless. He only stared at Kuan Yu as a powerful presence erupted from his body. "Qi Xiao, are you trying to become enemies with my chaotic battle god palace?" A black-robed, middle-aged man behind Kuan Yu stared at the old man. "There are quite a few people from my Pingtian divine empire here as well. Do you want to kill them all? Quite a few disciples from the other heavens sects have come as well. Do you want to become enemies with the entire world?" The old man called Qi Xiao did not back down. Kuan Yu's attack earlier had killed several dozen experts, including 2 princes of the Pingtian divine empire. Qi Xiao was an ancestor of the Pingtian divine empire. He was extremely powerful, and he was not necessarily weaker than the ancient war god, Kuan Yu. At this moment, a group of people charged over and directly arrived behind Qi Xiao. Every single one of them radiated with extremely powerful presences. Although they were not supreme exalts, they were not far away. "Pingtian divine empire. If you want to start a war, I'll keep you company," Kuan Yu roared out furiously. The 2 formations faced off against each other. At this moment, Jiyu Ling retreated to one side. Even though the laws of the immortal estate had greatly weakened his presence, he was still unable to move. Rumble. Just as these 2 supreme experts were facing off against each other, an incomparably shocking voice rang out from the depths of the immortal estate world, causing the entire immortal estate world to become unstable. "What's going on? Has a supreme Dao artifact appeared?" Everyone charged towards the depths of the immortal estate as soon as possible. That was a supreme Dao artifact. Even if they did not have the right to fight over it, there were countless other treasures in the immortal estate aside from the supreme treasures. While the supreme existences fought over the supreme treasures, the quasi-sovereigns would have the opportunity to obtain other treasures and fortuitous encounters. "Cert. Even if we have to dig a meter into the ground, we have to find the culprit." Kuan Yu directly ordered the people he had brought with him. "Yes, ancestor." The other experts of the chaotic battle god palace accepted the order in a hurry before dispersing and disappearing from the immortal estate. At the same time, he rose into the air and charged towards the depths of the immortal estate. The ancestor of the Pingtian divine empire could not sit still any longer. He directly turned into a streak of light and chased after Kuan Yu. Jiu Ling, Little Fatty, Qin Yarrow, and so on did not fight over any fortuitous encounters. Instead, they lingered around the entrance to the immortal estate. Chapter 4452. On the outskirts of the chaos rift between the heaven realm and the primal beginning realm, a mysterious divine abode had appeared, attracting countless cultivators. Countless divine sons and saintesses from the major sects and sects of the primal beginning realm, as well as the immortal dynasties and sacred grounds, had come to enter the divine abode world. For the geniuses of the primal beginning realm, the mysterious divine abode world was nothing more than a trial for them. Of course, the divine abode world wasn't a good place. If they weren't careful, they might lose their lives there. No one wanted to die, but this time, the countless forces of the primal beginning realm were dumbfounded. Many divine sons and saintesses had died in the divine abode world. This shocked everyone to the extreme. There was a big problem with the trial this time. A powerful being from the lower realm could actually kill the divine sons of the primal beginning realm. This made countless cultivators of the primal beginning realm unable to believe it. Everyone knew that the trial grounds were dangerous. Every time the countless divine sons and saintesses of the grand beginning realm entered the chaos immortal abode for trials, there would be people who died inside. Without going through trials, one wouldn't become a true cultivator. The world of cultivation was a cruel world where the strong were respected. Only by breaking through all kinds of difficulties and obstacles could one become an existence that could look down on all others. Of course, some people died in the process. This was inevitable, because not everyone could become a true cultivator. It wasn't that the divine sons cultivated by the major forces of the primal beginning realm weren't strong, but that there were people who were stronger than them. At this time, an ancient palace rose from the depths of the divine abode world. The entire ancient palace emitted endless divine light, instantly illuminating half of the divine abode world. The divine abode world was simply too big. It was simply a complete world. Since ancient times, even the most ancient existence of the primal beginning realm couldn't clearly explain the origin of this divine abode world. They only knew that this divine abode world would appear every once in a while. Once it appeared, it would cause a stir in all directions, and countless forces of the entire primal beginning realm would flock there. There were great opportunities and great fortunes in the divine abode world. Legend had it that there was even a supreme inheritance in that world. If one could obtain that inheritance, they would be able to reach the heavens in a single step. Becoming an extreme supreme being would be a piece of cake, and they might even be able to take a step beyond the extreme Tao. This was also the reason why the countless powers of the grand beginning realm had to send their most outstanding successors into the immortal mansion world. Even an extreme grade supremacy would not be able to sit still. In the primal beginning realm, there was a legend that the extreme Tao was not the end. However, there had never been an existence stronger than the extreme Tao. Rumble. The aura that erupted from the ancient palace was astonishing. It resonated with the entire world. Endless divine light of the great path rushed in from all directions. Something in the ancient palace seemed to be awakening. What is that? A figure appeared in the distant sky. Chaotic chi surged around him. At the same time, another figure appeared in another direction. An extremely powerful aura also erupted from his body, and 9 golden dragons danced around him. The imperial ancestor of the Pingtian divine empire, Qi Xiao, had arrived. Old devil Qi, you are fast. Chaotic Qi surged, and the figure that looked like an ancient chaotic god sneered. Kuan Yu, we'll settle our scores later. Qi Xiao said coldly. Humph. Do you want to calculate it now? Kuan Yu said contemptuously. Qi Xiao was about to take action. Other people feared the chaotic war god palace, but he did not because he had the entire Pingtian divine empire behind him. The Pingtian divine empire was definitely no weaker than the chaotic war god palace. However, at this moment, both Qi Xiao and Kuan Yu's expressions changed. They suddenly turned around and looked in the same direction. A figure appeared on the eastern horizon. The vision of a sovereign was definitely astonishing. When Qi Xiao and Kuan Yu saw the person, they both looked at the spear in his hand. The sovereign's blood. Qi Xiao and Kuan Yu were extremely shocked. The tip of the spear was actually covered with the sovereign's blood. The blood was extremely red, and it even gave off a powerful presence of the extreme grade supremacy. That was the sovereign's blood. The blood of a sovereign was extremely brutal and powerful. A single droplet could basically destroy the world. It needed to be sealed up with a powerful technique. This guy has actually killed a sovereign before. Even someone as powerful as the ancient battle god of the chaotic battle god palace, Kuan Yu, had a grave expression on his face. After all, it wasn't easy to kill an extreme grade sovereign. Once they failed to kill them, the consequences would be severe. Being targeted by our extreme grade supremacy would definitely be a disaster. Once a sovereign took revenge, even the chaotic war god palace would be in trouble. The person wielded a spear and walked over from afar step by step. The entire world seemed to shake with his footsteps. He was definitely a supreme expert. Di Zhoutian. At this moment, a streak of light shot over from afar. There was a figure within the light. When the person saw the black-robed, middle-aged man, he could not help but become surprised. He immediately stopped. Who's Di Zhoutian? I've never heard of him. Kuan Yu frowned. Even Qi Xiao, the imperial ancestor of the Pingtian divine empire, became stern and doubtful. Di Zhoutian was an unfamiliar name to them, but to the cultivators of the celestial world and human world, his name was like thunder to their ears. No one dared to underestimate him. At this moment, powerful figures appeared near the ancient hall one after another. Every single one of them was extremely powerful. The laws of the world resonated with them, as if they could collapse the surrounding space. With so many extreme grade supremacy gathered together, the divine might of the extreme grade supremacy spread out, shaking a small portion of the immortal estate. If it were not for the powerful protection of the world, it would have shattered long ago. As the extreme grade supremacy gathered in the eastern region of the immortal estate, three powerful figures charged into the entrance of the immortal estate at the same time. Roar. The person in the lead roared at the sky. Terrifying ripples spread out, shaking the space violently. Pitch-black spatial cracks appeared one after another. Boss, don't show your might first. What if you scare away those big fish? A black-robed man said hurriedly. That's right. We're here to catch big fish. Another white-robed young man with a huge bow on his back nodded. I couldn't help it. There's no power of heavenly punishment here. That's rather unexpected. The young man in the lead raised his head and gazed at the sky, his eyes twinkling with tiny streaks of starlight. Who's shouting here? At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from up ahead. Chem. The three sovereigns looked in the direction of the voice. Who's so bold as to act so impudently in front of this sovereign? Get over here and die for this sovereign. The black-robed man's body trembled, and an extreme pressure immediately erupted from his body. He looked down on the world and all life. Who did you call over to die? At this moment, the person in front took a step forward, directly arriving in front of the three sovereigns. When the black-robed man saw this, he trembled and almost knelt down in fear.